Chapter 289. Yun Ruoyan plunged the dagger deep into the youth's chest. The youth's eyes were as round as saucers as he stared at Yun Ruoyan. If you kill me, His Highness will definitely avenge me, and the brothers of the Wondrous Garden will definitely avenge me. Fine, then you can go to hell and slowly wait for them to avenge you. Yun Ruoyan's voice was as cold as ice. She pulled the dagger out of the youth's chest, but he didn't immediately die. Instead, he twitched uncontrollably on the ground. At this moment, a pair of dark green snake eyes appeared in Red Willow Alley. It approached the two of them at an extremely fast speed and arrived before them in a few moments. It was a very thick python, and in its mouth was a rather large wild boar's head that was dripping with blood. The python was the youth's true form, and the boar's head was the fatty. Yun Ruoyan stared at the python's jade-green eyes for a moment before taking 2 steps back. The python released the boar's head, which fell to the ground. Then, the giant python bit down on the young man who was still twitching on the ground. With this bite, the young man's upper body was sucked into its huge mouth. However, it didn't swallow the youth whole. Instead, it bit off his upper body and swallowed it whole, leaving his lower body on the ground. His intestines and organs were scattered all over the ground, and his 2 legs had transformed into the hind legs of a goat. As it turned out, the youth was actually a goat spirit. After swallowing half of the youth's body, the python began to slam its head against the stone walls on either side of the street. Once, twice, thrice, the ground shook with every strike, and the huge commotion quickly attracted the attention of the residents on the street. Yun Ruoyan hid herself until the python's head was smashed into a pulp. Only when it was dead did she leave. Your Highness. Yun Ruoyan arrived at Li Xing's house to bid him farewell. That demon has been dealt with. I'll leave with Physician Xing early in the morning. Miss Yun, you've dealt with that demon. Li Xing seemed a little surprised, because he knew that Yun Ruoyan was going to kill the demon. As a result, he had been paying close attention to any movements in the neighboring gardens. He waited until the middle of the night, but the wondrous garden had been quiet the entire time. Li Xing had thought that Yun Ruoyan had been frightened by the demonic aura emanating from the garden and had retreated in the face of overwhelming odds. He hadn't expected Yun Ruoyan to suddenly tell him that the demonic beasts had been dealt with. Your Highness, Your Highness. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, and Yun Ruoyan cautiously hid behind a screen in the room. What is it? Li Xing asked. Young Master Wang, Uncle Liu, and Master Cheng of the Wondrous Flower Garden suddenly started fighting each other in Red Willow Alley. The person outside the door said anxiously. They fought. Li Xing couldn't help but feel a little confused, but he quickly asked, what was the result? None of them survived. They're all dead. That person said, furthermore, the 3 of them have revealed their true forms. Currently, there are a large number of commoners on the street watching them. The commoners were all discussing, saying that they were the monsters that dug out hearts during this period of time. Because they couldn't divide the spoils evenly, they started fighting, and in the end, all 3 of them died. Your Highness, do you want to go out and pacify the commoners? The person speaking outside the room was clearly aware of what was going on in the Wondrous Flower Garden, and he was probably a demon himself. Last night, I had a shortness of breath while cultivating, and my lungs were injured. I'll need to seclude myself for 2 months, so I'll leave this matter to you, Li Xing told the person outside. When the person heard Li Xing's words, he paused for a moment before nodding and leaving. Only when she heard the person's footsteps go down the stairs did Yun Ruoyan walk out from behind the screen. These demons are extremely cunning and suspicious. If I'm still in seclusion in 2 months, they'll definitely grow suspicious, Li Xing said worriedly. Don't worry, Your Highness. Even if I don't have time to come out in 2 months, I'll definitely send someone with a cultivation no lower than mine to help you, Your Highness. Only after hearing Yun Ruoyan's assurance did Li Xing relax a little. Yun Ruoyan returned to the inn that she had booked earlier. At daybreak, Physician Singh received Li Xing's orders and went to the inn to look for Yun Ruoyan. "You must be Miss Yun. On your Highness's orders, I'm going out with you to treat a patient," Physician Singh greeted Yun Ruoyan politely. That night, when Yun Ruoyan had gone to the side courtyard to look for Physician Singh, she hadn't been able to get a good look at the man's face. Now that she looked at him, he had a long beard and a square face, and he seemed rather upright and righteous. Yun Ruoyan wanted to immediately ask him about Lin Yuamei's illness, but she knew that this wasn't the right time, so she could only suppress that urge. "Yes, I'm going to the capital to treat a patient." "Have you had breakfast yet, Physician Singh?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "I've eaten at home," Physician Singh replied. "In that case, let's head out now. A patient can't afford to wait." Yun Ruoyan led the way to the back courtyard of the inn. The carriage that she had requested from Li Xing the night before had already been delivered early in the morning. Physician Singh entered the carriage, and Yun Ruoyan hopped onto the driver's seat and drove the carriage toward the city gates. An hour later, Yun Ruoyan's carriage arrived at the city gates. When the guards saw that Yun Ruoyan's carriage bore the insignia of the far-sighted king's manor, they didn't ask any questions and immediately opened the gates. Not long after Yun Ruoyan's carriage exited the city gates, a flame's steed galloped toward her. "Brother!" Yun Ruoyan could see from afar that the man on the horse was none other than her brother, Yun Maxiao. Yun Ruoyan rode up to him. "Brother, why are you here?" Yun Maxiao hurriedly pulled on the reins as soon as he saw Yun Ruoyan. "I was still worried about you, so I asked for leave from father and rushed over." "All right then, let's head back together." Yun Ruoyan smiled. Although she felt that Yun Maxiao was being a little cautious around her, she still felt a warmth in her heart. "Did you find Physician Singh?" Yun Maxiao asked as he turned his horse around to ride alongside Yun Ruoyan. "Yes, he's in the carriage," Yun Ruoyan replied. "I ran into some matters in the city, and I was delayed for a day. I'll tell you more when I have time." Because Physician Singh was in the carriage, Yun Ruoyan couldn't tell him about the fake far-sighted king, so the siblings focused on their journey. If the flame steed galloped at full speed, a day would be more than enough to reach the capital. Yun Ruoyan's carriage, however, was a little slower, and Physician Singh had to rest from time to time. The siblings traveled for a full day and night, only arriving at the capital the next morning. "I'll make arrangements for Physician Singh. You'd best make a trip to the slaughtering king's manor first," Yun Maxiao said to Yun Ruoyan as soon as they entered the capital. "What's the matter? Is Liu Mo angry?" Yun Ruoyan asked, a little uncertainly. "You might not know this, but the day after you left, the slaughtering king came to the manor to ask for your hand in marriage, but you weren't there." The slaughtering king's face didn't look very angry, but extremely angry. "That's one of the reasons I was so anxious to find you." Yun Maxiao shook his head helplessly. Did father agree to his proposal? Yun Ruoyan was clearly more concerned about this issue than Li Mo's anger. Father didn't agree at first, but when the slaughtering king offered a cloud sky fruit as a betrothal gift, he relented and said that he'd wait for you to return. After all, you're a student of Kongming Academy, and you have your own opinions. Actually, father's always been aware of your relationship with the slaughtering king, but he's probably feeling conflicted. If you insist on marrying no one but the slaughtering king, I'm sure he'll agree to the two of you. Yun Ruoyan knew that her father would only agree to their proposal because of the cloud sky fruit. Yun Ruoyan knew of the cloud sky fruit. It could help a peak 9th rank blade master break through to the peak of the Sword Saint realm. Even if they were to remain at the peak of the Sword Saint realm for the rest of their lives, they would still be able to look down on the rest of the world. This betrothal gift seemed to have been specially made for Yunlan, and it must have been difficult for Li Mo to obtain it. Yun Ruoyan thought about how ugly Li Mo's expression would be when he arrived at the Yun Manor with the cloud sky fruit, only to find that she was nowhere to be found. However, having gotten used to Li Mo's awkward demeanor, Yun Ruoyan found it rather amusing, and she couldn't help but smile faintly. "Brother, I'll leave physician Sing to you. I'll make a trip to the slaughtering king's manor." Yun Ruoyan handed the reins of her carriage to her brother, took his flame steed, and set off in the direction of the slaughtering king's manor. "Miss Yun, you're finally here." When Yun Ruoyan arrived at the gates of the slaughtering king's manor, 2 guards, one fat and one thin, came up to her as soon as she dismounted. "What's the matter?" Yun Ruoyan asked when she saw the exaggerated expressions on their faces. "Miss Yun, Miss Li Luo has been coming to the gates many times over the past few days, asking if Miss Yun has arrived. She's making us all jumpy," the thin guard replied. "Don't waste any more of Miss Yun's time. Let her in quickly," the fat guard ordered as he took the reins from Yun Ruoyan's hands. "In that case, I'll have to trouble you," Yun Ruoyan replied to the fat guard before striding into the manor. "Li Mo, Li Mo." Yun Ruoyan called out as soon as she entered Li Mo's courtyard. "Miss Yun, you're finally here." Li Luo walked out from the living room. "Sister Li Luo, is Li Mo inside?" Yun Ruoyan walked up to Li Luo and whispered. "Yes, he hasn't said a word since he returned from the Yun Manor 2 days ago," Li Luo replied softly. "In that case, what's he doing right now?" "Reading," Li Luo replied. Li Luo glanced back at the room. "But ever since this morning, Your Highness has been reading the same page of the same book, and I don't know what he's thinking. I've never seen him like this before, so you should go in and take a look." Li Luo left, and Yun Ruoyan tiptoed into the living room. By the door, Yun Ruoyan could see Li Mo sitting on a couch, a book in his hands. His eyes were glued to the book, but he didn't move an inch. Chapter 290. Yun Ruoyan stood in front of the door for a long time. "You're back." Li Mo finally spoke. "Yes, I'm back," Yun Ruoyan replied softly, but she didn't move from her spot. "What are you standing there for? Aren't you tired of running around these past few days?" Li Mo finally put down the book in his hand and looked up at Yun Ruoyan. "I was scared to hear that you were angry." Yun Ruoyan immediately smiled. After removing the fake birthmark from her face, she hadn't made a new one. Instead, she wore a peach blossom veil that she hadn't worn in a long time. The past few days of running around had caused Yun Ruoyan's hair to be a little disheveled, and it was clear that she hadn't eaten well. Her chin was much sharper, and the peach blossom veil covered almost half of her face. "So you're scared?" Li Mo shifted his gaze away from Yun Ruoyan. "It looks like Li Mo's really angry this time," Yun Ruoyan thought. She pretended to be careful as she walked up to Li Mo's side. "Are you really angry?" "Shouldn't I be?" Li Mo raised his head to look at Yun Ruoyan, his brows slightly furrowed. His straight nose and thin lips clearly indicated that he was angry. "You seem to be," Yun Ruoyan murmured. Yun Ruoyan replied softly, clearly lacking in confidence. "Then what can I do to make you not angry?" Yun Ruoyan twirled a strand of hair by her temple, clearly distressed. Li Mo sighed. Just as he was about to say something, Yun Ruoyan leaned forward and kissed him on the lips. Her soft lips were cold, like dew that had been left out in the open for an entire day. "Are you still angry?" Yun Ruoyan left Li Mo's lips after a light touch. Her large eyes stared into Li Mo's inky black pupils. Suddenly, as though her eyes were playing tricks on her, she saw a flash of icy blue light in Li Mo's eyes, and then she was pulled into his embrace. Her tender lips were occupied by Li Mo, and they began to rub against each other. Yun Ruoyan's lips were cold dew, and Li Mo's lips were like the flames of that dew. At first, Yun Ruoyan accepted it, but as Li Mo found it harder and harder to control himself, Yun Ruoyan began to push him away. She could taste blood on her lips, but she didn't know whether it was her own or Li Mo's. Yun Ruoyan's lips were also starting to grow numb, and she couldn't feel any warmth or sweetness. All she could feel was Li Mo's anger. When intimacy became an outlet to vent one's anger, then this intimacy was no longer pleasurable. Li Mo, it hurts. Yun Ruoyan pushed against Li Mo's shoulders with both hands, barely able to speak. Let go of me. Under Yun Ruoyan's persistent resistance, Li Mo finally let go of her. As soon as Li Mo let go of her, she subconsciously tried to retreat, but Li Mo grabbed her arm. Li Mo, it seems like I've really made you angry, and more than I expected. As Yun Ruoyan wiped away the blood on her lips, she replied, then I'll wait for you to calm down before talking to you. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned to leave, but Li Mo grabbed her arm tightly. Li Mo called out, suppressing his emotions. Yes. Yun Ruoyan responded. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have vented my anger on you like that. It's just that. Li Mo continued slowly, the more angry I am, the more I care about you. You said that my anger exceeded your expectations, but it's actually because I care about you far more than you can imagine. When Yun Ruoyan heard Li Mo's words, she couldn't help but feel touched. Such a noble, aloof man was definitely lethal when he spoke of his love. Yun Ruoyan didn't doubt Li Mo's sincerity. Yun Ruoyan turned around and grabbed Li Mo's hand. I should be the one apologizing. I shouldn't have left without telling you, right? I've made you worry, haven't I? But there are some things that I want to accomplish on my own. I can't rely on you forever. Why? Li Mo frowned. Why can't you rely on me forever? I want to be your pillar of support, and that's why I want to marry you. I want to protect you so that you'll never be hurt again. Li Mo, I know what you mean. She sat down by Li Mo's side and lowered her head. Before I met you, I experienced many things that I couldn't bear to look back on. Although I've tried my best to forget these unpleasant memories, I can't forget the changes they've brought to me. Yun Ruoyan rested her head on Li Mo's shoulder. Before those things happened, my greatest wish was to find a man I could rely on for the rest of my life. But after what I've experienced, I've come to understand that the only person I can rely on in this world is myself. Perhaps you could try relying on me, just like now, Li Mo continued. Yun Ruoyan smiled bitterly and shook her head. Then, her face filled with longing, she said, perhaps one day, when we're free from all conflict, I'll be willing to rely on you like this every day. Sometimes I find that I really don't understand you. Li Mo put an arm around Yun Ruoyan's thin shoulders. You're only 14 or 15, and this is the first time you've left the capital, other than when you were at Kongming Academy. Your age and experience are clearly limited. But you give me the feeling that you've been through a lot. And what you said just now, it's a good thing you said it to me. If you'd said it to anyone else, I can't imagine how they'd react. Li Mo, let me tell you a secret, Yun Ruoyan suddenly began. Actually, I've been reborn as a spirit, and I've already lived a life of my own. That's why I've been through so much. In my previous life, I died very miserably. It was because of my own incompetence that my family was almost ruined and killed. In this life, I'm determined to become a strong cultivator. Li Mo turned to look at Yun Ruoyan. It's only been a few days since we last met, and your storytelling skills have improved quite a bit. You don't believe me? Li Mo shook his head. Of course not. Is what you're saying true? Of course not. Yun Ruoyan smiled mischievously. The reason I'm old is because I've matured early. I didn't have a good time in the Yun household in the past few years. My mother died young, my father didn't love me, and my brother wasn't by my side. I've long since developed the habit of relying on myself. And I can't change that habit. If you really want to marry me, please accept me, not change me. I can accept all of you, Liemo replied immediately. But I really hope that there won't be too many secrets between us. We're about to become husband and wife, and if we still have to hide things from each other, what's the point of our marriage? Yun Ruoyan thought for a moment. Liemo, my past experiences have made it hard for me to trust others, even those I love the most. As a result, I won't reveal my own secrets first, but if you're willing to tell me all of them, I won't hide them from you any longer. Liemo stood up and walked to the window. After a long moment, he said, in the few days that you've been gone, I've been thinking about this. In the past, I didn't tell you all of my secrets because I didn't want you to be pulled into a whirlpool of danger. But since I've decided to marry you, you're destined to be bound to me, to face all of my dangers with me. Liemo shifted his gaze from the window to Yun Ruoyan. I'll tell you all of the secrets that I've sworn to protect with my life. Liemo had already revealed his true identity to Yun Ruoyan, but after spending some time with her, Yun Ruoyan felt that Liemo was still hiding more secrets from her. For example, Liemo would often disappear for a few days at a time, or she had heard someone report to him about his wife when they were in the southern tower. Although Yun Ruoyan would never ask Liemo about these things, it didn't mean that she didn't care or want to know. She was simply waiting for an opportunity for Liemo to tell her himself, and this was the opportunity. Before I tell you this secret, I'd like to take you to 2 places. Liemo extended a hand toward Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan walked over and placed her hand on Liemo's palm. Liemo pulled her out of the hall, then flew toward the Ueli Mountains with Yun Ruoyan. 4 hours later, the sword stopped above a valley. There were a few dozen wooden houses at the bottom of the valley, and there were a few cows and sheep, as well as some people working at the front and back of the houses. This was just like a small village. The people living here are all beastkin slaves that I've rescued in the past. Including those that I rescued from the U Kingdom 10 days ago, there are now 2,350 of them, Liemo began. Perhaps I can't rebuild a powerful beastkin kingdom for them, but I want to give them a life free from worldly strife. Do they know that you were the one who saved them? Yun Ruoyan asked. Only a small portion of them do, Liemo replied. Most of them, like Zhuai Feng, view me as their enemy. Only a small portion of them know my true identity. Liemo, there's something I've never been able to figure out. Were you really the one who slaughtered that 100,000-strong beastkin army all those years ago? Yes. Why? Because they were afflicted with a demonic parasite. If I didn't kill them, they'd become bloodthirsty demons. Liemo clenched his fists tightly. They fought painfully against the parasites, and only a few of them managed to survive. Now, most of them have become my guards, and the rest are begging for death. I had no choice but to order them all to be slaughtered. Chapter 291. Liemo's tone was filled with grief and helplessness. At the time, he had only been a 17-year-old youth. How much willpower and endurance did he have to endure the sorrowful cries of nearly 100,000 of his own people? How much courage did he have to finally give the order to kill his own people? The world didn't know Liemo's true identity, and they called him the Slaughtering King, praising and revering him. But perhaps only Liemo himself knew what he had endured. He had been misunderstood, hated, and condemned by his own conscience. Yun Ruoyan seemed to finally understand why Liemo was so cold, why he always wore a uniform of black, and why, despite being only in his 20s, he seemed as weathered as she. Yun Ruoyan's heart ached at the thought of the youth who, at 16, had been forced to kill without hesitation, had to bear the weight of a mountain on his shoulders. Her heart ached for Liemo, who still had to bear the blame. Yun Ruoyan could feel Liemo's body tense up, and she couldn't help but turn around and hug him. Only then did Liemo's tense body relax a little. Liemo, do you know who planted the demonic parasite in your clansmen? Yun Ruoyan asked from Liemo's embrace. Killing the culprit was the best way to console the dead. It was the first elder of the silver dragons. Liemo caressed Yunruoyan's hair. Back then, he was severely injured by my father. In order to exterminate the beastkin, he sent one of his protectors to hide on the Qinyuan continent. After my father's death, the beastkin were leaderless, and his protector incited the beastkin to muster an army to rebel, hoping to use the human race to exterminate the beastkin. Liemo said that when he heard this news, he personally petitioned Emperor Li to become the commander-in-chief of the rebellion. Because Emperor Li knew of his background, he agreed to let him lead the army to quell the rebellion. Liemo's goal in becoming the commander-in-chief was to stop the war. He found a few of the beastmen's commanders and revealed his identity, revealing the first elder's scheme. Several of the beastmen generals had willingly submitted to Liemo, but Liemo hadn't expected that the silver dragon protector would use his own body as a parasite in order to complete his mission, using all of his cultivation to plant a demonic parasite on the army of 100,000 beastmen. Once this demonic insect entered a person's body, it would demonize them, causing them to lose their humanity and become cruel and murderous. It would cause a normal person to become like a bloodthirsty beast. If all 100,000 beastmen were demonized, not only would the beastmen be wiped out, but the entire Qinyuan continent would become a living hell. At the time, Liemo had no other choice. Those compatriots, knowing that they would become demons who would not recognize even their own kin, all begged for death. Almost none of them resisted. I once swore on the heads of 100,000 beastmen that I would behead the first elder of the Silver Dragon clan in my lifetime to comfort their souls in heaven. All right. Yunruoyan hugged Liemo tightly once more. I'll cut off that demon's head with you and hang it in this valley, so that he can forever repent to the descendants of the beastmen. Liemo hugged Yunruoyan tightly as well. After a long moment, Liemo continued, "This is only a secret of mine. Next, I'm going to take you to see someone. She's the greatest secret of my life." Yunruoyan couldn't help but think back to that day in the southern tower, when Liemo had mentioned his wife to someone else. At the time, Liemo had referred to her as his mother. However, Liemo had also told her that his mother had been kidnapped by the silver dragons, so this question had been bothering Yunruoyan ever since. However, she would soon have an answer to this question. Liemo once more took to the skies, heading in another direction of the Ueli Mountains, toward another valley. The second day after Yunruoyan's departure, Liemo was about to go to the Yun Manor to propose a marriage when he received a message from Su Bei, asking him to bring Yunruoyan to Empress Shuetong. At first, Liemo was a little hesitant, but after a short conversation with Yunruoyan, he decided to bring her to Empress Shuetong. As for Empress Shuetong, when she first heard of Yunruoyan from Liemo, she had only seen her as a cauldron that could help Liemo break through. However, after learning from the first elder of Kongming Academy that Yunruoyan possessed the bloodline of a black dragon, she began to think of ways to make use of Yunruoyan. She intended to use Yunruoyan to form an alliance with the black dragons to destroy the silver dragons. Yunruoyan was a crucial part of this alliance, which was why Empress Shuetong was so eager to meet this woman who both Liemo and the first elder had described as extraordinary. 2 hours later, Liemo brought Yunruoyan to an unfamiliar valley. Perhaps because of the approaching twilight, or perhaps because of the lack of people, this valley looked far more sinister than the one Yunruoyan had encountered before. Especially this tall and majestic, yet at the same time dilapidated castle. Under the twilight, it more or less gave off an eerie feeling. "Liemo, is this?" Yunruoyan had already guessed the answer. "Yes, this is the royal castle of the Beastkin Kingdom, and I was born here." Liemo took Yunruoyan's hand and led her toward the castle gates. "This is also where I grew up, and I have many memories of my childhood here. But when I was 6, everything disappeared." The two of them walked into the castle together. "Your Highness, you're here. The madam has been waiting for you." Su Bei walked out from an inconspicuous corner. He was also dressed in black, and he wore a hood that concealed his face. This is Su Bei, one of my guards. However, he's always been in charge of guarding this place, Liemo explained to Yun Ruoyan. Of the guards, Yun Ruoyan was most familiar with Su Nan. As for Su Dong, Su Bei, and Su Shi, she had only heard of them from Liemo. However, Yun Ruoyan recognized Su Bei's voice as the one who had spoken to Liemo that day in the southern tower of Kongming Academy. This must be Miss Yun. The madam has been waiting for a long time. This way, please, Su Bei said to Yun Ruoyan as he pulled down his hood to reveal his true appearance. Yun Ruoyan saw a man with a resolute face. On the left side of his face, there was a slanted knife scar that extended from his forehead to his chin, making his resolute features seem even sharper. As Yun Ruoyan looked at Su Bei's resolute and sharp face, she couldn't help but feel that it was somewhat familiar. Yes, it was Zhuoyifang. However, Zhuoyifang was still a young man, and in front of Su Bei, he appeared somewhat immature. However, his resolute and sharp aura was extremely similar. Yun Ruoyan didn't know of the relationship between Zhuoyifang and Su Bei, and she didn't think much of it. She only treated it as a coincidence. After a brief moment of surprise, she nodded at Su Bei and followed behind Liemo, following Su Bei into the secret chamber. Very quickly, the three of them arrived at the door of the chamber, and Su Bei opened it for them to enter. Yun Ruoyan glanced at Liemo. She couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Was the madam that Su Bei spoke of, the secret that Liemo said he would protect for the rest of his life, the person she was thinking of? Filled with nervousness, doubt, and excitement, Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but walk into the chamber ahead of Liemo. Miss Yun, how are you? As soon as Yun Ruoyan stepped into the chamber, she heard a pleasant but cold female voice. At the same time, Yun Ruoyan saw a statue of a woman carved from jade standing in the middle of the chamber, surrounded by all sorts of spiritual herbs, pills, and other spiritual items that she couldn't name. The entire chamber was filled with dense spiritual energy. Miss Yun, I've often heard mention you, and today, I've finally seen you in person. You're truly a beautiful young lady. That pleasant and cold voice clearly came from the mouth of the jade-carving woman. This time, the tone seemed much more amiable. You are? Yun Ruoyan finally asked after a moment of shock. She's my mother, Empress Shuetong of the Beastkin Kingdom, Li Mo's voice rang out from behind Yun Ruoyan. Liemo walked up to Yun Ruoyan and bowed to the statue. Mother, I've brought Yen, to pay my respects to you. Yun Ruoyan pays her respects. Yun Ruoyan hurriedly followed Li Mo's lead and bowed to Empress Shuetong. Dispense with the formalities. Shuetong said, Miss Yun, did my appearance frighten you? Yun Ruoyan hurriedly raised her head to look at Empress Shuetong. No, I'm just a little surprised. Empress Shuetong was clearly a jade statue that couldn't move, but Yun Ruoyan could feel her gaze on her face. Liemo mentioned you to me before. Yun Ruoyan calmed herself. Yun Ruoyan calmed herself down and looked at Shuetong. He said that you'd been kidnapped by the silver dragons, so I was a little surprised to see you here. Yun Ruoyan glanced at Liemo, a little upset that he hadn't told her about this beforehand. Liemo didn't lie to you, Empress Shuetong sighed. Shuetong sighed and said, I was indeed taken away by the elders of the Silver Dragon clan. What I'm talking to you now is only a remnant of my soul in this jade statue. Liemo didn't tell you, not because he didn't trust you, but because this is a matter of life and death. The Silver Dragons don't know that I still have this remnant of my soul on the Qinyuan continent, and once they do, they'll surely send someone else. Once the secret is revealed, the Silver Dragons will come looking for you first. Empress Shuetong's amiable voice turned cold and serious once more. Thus, this secret of mine is both a responsibility and a danger to all who know of it. And now, if you marry Liemo, you'll be embroiled in this danger. I hope you'll understand this clearly. Chapter 292. If you're afraid, it's not too late to regret it. Shui Tong continued, I can make you forget everything you've seen and heard today. Of course, your marriage with Li Mo will also be called off. I'm not afraid, and I won't regret it. I'm willing to shoulder our responsibilities together with Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan replied without hesitation. She looked toward Li Mo, whose gaze was also on her. Li Mo, will you make me regret it? Yun Ruoyan's eyes shone brightly. As long as I'm in your heart, no matter what price I have to pay, I won't regret it. In the past, Yun Ruoyan had always strived to live a better life than she had in her last life. Now, however, she had a new mission. Li Mo's mission was her mission. Li Mo's eyes shone brightly as he looked at Yun Ruoyan. I, Li Mo, swear to my father that I will never betray you. If I break this oath, let me. Just as Li Mo was about to swear an oath, Yun Ruoyan covered his mouth. If you betray me, you and I will be separated for all eternity, never to see each other again. Li Mo frowned as he held Yun Ruoyan's hand. Her words pierced his heart more deeply than any oath he could make. To be separated from his yen, for the rest of his life was indeed more painful than being struck by lightning or pierced by arrows. All right. Li Mo managed to force the word out of his mouth. You're truly a good child. My son didn't fall in love with the wrong person, Empress Shui Tong praised. Su Bei. Empress Shui Tong called out to Su Bei, who was standing outside the secret chamber. Madam. Su Bei walked into the chamber and bowed to Empress Shui Tong. Bring me the present I've prepared for Miss Yun. Su Bei walked into a side room of the secret chamber. A few moments later, he returned with a long jade box in his arms. He opened the box, and Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but stare at Su Bei. Yun Ruoyan saw a blinding red light emanating from the box, and she subconsciously covered her eyes with her hands. When the red light dissipated, Yun Ruoyan could clearly see a scarlet spiritual sword within the box. This sword is called Scarlet Eye. This sword was once used by my husband, Li Mo's father, the late Beast King, when he was young. Later on, after His Majesty achieved great success in his cultivation method, he no longer needed this sword. Thus, this sword has been kept in the secret room. It has already been several decades since then. Yun Ruoyan looked at Qi Tong. She could clearly feel the dense fire-attuned spiritual energy emanating from it, and it seemed to resonate with the Qilin bracelet on its wrist. As soon as this feeling formed in Yun Ruoyan's heart, the bracelet on her wrist turned red. At the same time, Yun Ruoyan felt the fire elemental spiritual energy in her Dantian spiritual sea churn. This kind of churning was just a sign of sudden activity, and she didn't feel any discomfort. Instead, she felt a sense of excitement. Qi Tong's eyes glowed red once again after the red glow disappeared. However, this time, the red glow was no longer the blinding red that was used to defend or attack. Instead, it was a gentle red glow that resembled the sunset glow. This gentle red glow seemed to summon Yun Ruoyan. Involuntarily, she reached into the jade box and took Qi Tong in her hand. The Qilin bracelet had been forged from the Beast King's own fire-attuned spiritual energy, and it contained the Beast King's spiritual energy. Moreover, Qi Tong was the Beast King's personal sword, so it was extremely familiar with the Beast King's spiritual energy. Yun Ruoyan's fire-attuned spiritual energy had been greatly influenced by the Qilin bracelet ever since it was forged, and it was inevitable that it would contain the Beast King's spiritual energy. The combination of all the above factors led to the current situation. This is amazing. Yun Ruoyan held Qi Tong in her hand, and even Su Bei couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. This sword is indeed fated with you. Empress Shui Tong let out a long sigh after recovering from her shock. Apart from the intense fire-attuned spiritual energy, is there anything else special about this sword? Yun Ruoyan asked, noticing that the three people beside her, including Li Mo, were all shocked when she picked up the scarlet pupil sword. "Miss Yun, you might not know this, but this Chi Tong sword was forged from inferno iron that my husband extracted from a volcano when he was young," Empress Shui Tong explained. "As a result, it's so hot that ordinary people wouldn't be able to touch it. In particular, when it glows red, its heat is unimaginable. Only this 1,000-year-old jade box can offset its heat, and I thought that no one other than my husband would be able to pick it up with their bare hands. So it's that powerful." Yun Ruoyan held the hilt of Chi Tong's sword in her right hand and placed the middle and index fingers of her left hand on the blade. Not only did she not feel the slightest heat, but rather a cool sensation. "Thank you, Empress," Yun Ruoyan thanked Empress Shui Tong happily. "This really is a good sword." "You're welcome." There was a rare smile in Empress Shui Tong's voice. "I heard from Li Mo that you're already an 8th rank blade master. Once an 8th rank blade master became an 8th rank blade master, they would be able to use spiritual swords as a flying type spiritual artifact. However, spiritual swords that could be used as flying type spiritual artifacts were extremely rare, and it was even rarer to find one that suited one's needs. Only a cultivator who could use a sword of their own could become a true blade master. As a result, there were quite a few 8th rank blade masters on the Qinyuan continent, but very few of them could become true blade masters in the future. The reason for this was that they couldn't find a sword that was both precious and suitable for them. "This sword is called Emerald Song," Li Mo explained. "This is a wood-attuned sword, and Zhuo Feng is already an 8th rank blade master. This sword is just right for him." "Thank you, Your Highness." Su Bei accepted the sword, his tone both excited and delighted. "In a year's time, Zhuo Feng will be accompanying me into the other dimension. I hope you'll be able to grasp the opportunity to reunite with him." Su Bei nodded, but didn't say anything else. A green sword aura appeared beneath Li Mo's feet, and he took to the skies with Yun Ruoyan, speeding toward the capital. The sky was already turning bright in the east. The first thing the two of them did when they arrived at the imperial city was to go to the Yun family together to inform Yunlan of the wedding. Not long after Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo left, a white-robed, white-haired old man walked out from a side chamber of the secret chamber. This old man was none other than the first elder of Kongming Academy. "Empress, what you're doing is sure to incur Sun Mo's displeasure and resentment one day. Please reconsider," the first elder advised. "First elder, there's no need to say more," Empress Shui Tong immediately responded. Empress Shui Tong said immediately, her voice even colder than before. "Compared to exterminating the Silver Dragon clan and killing my husband to protect me, I can bear Mo's resentment. How's the matter I've entrusted you with?" "I've already gone to the demonic dragon tomb, met with the demonic dragon's soul, and conveyed your message," the first elder replied. "What do they want?" Empress Shui Tong asked anxiously. "They wish to speak with you in person," the great elder said. Yun Ruoyan wasn't of marriageable age yet, so her hair couldn't be tied up in a complicated bun. However, Li Luo skillfully braided a few strands of hair for Yun Ruoyan, then tied them into 2 strands and draped them over her shoulders. This kind of hairstyle was both beautiful and neat. It was both playful and cute, and it exuded a heroic spirit. Coupled with the fiery red dress, her entire person was like a fiery red skylark, agile and lively. When Li Mo saw Yun Ruoyan in this state, he couldn't help but smile. "His Highness only smiles like this when he sees Miss Yun," Li Luo murmured to herself. Yin, Li Mo walked toward Yun Ruoyan and took her small hand in his. "Let's go." The two of them walked out of the Slaughtering King's manor hand in hand and boarded the carriage together. The servant signaled for the carriage to start moving in the direction of the Yun manor. "Li Mo, when you're done with my father, I have something to say to you," Yun Ruoyan said to Li Mo. "All right." Li Mo replied softly. An hour later, the carriage stopped in front of the Yun manor. When the servants saw the slaughtering king and Yun Ruoyan disembark from the carriage, they immediately ran to report to Yun Lan. Liamo, on the other hand, held Yun Ruoyan's hand as they boldly entered the manor and headed for the main hall. What? What did you say? Say it again. Yun Lan was in his study, going through documents that he hadn't finished last night, when he suddenly heard a servant report that the slaughtering king and Yun Ruoyan had arrived. Master, His Highness, the slaughtering king, is currently holding the young Miss's hand and heading towards the main hall, the servant repeated. It's too immoral to do that in public, Yun Lan said as he stood up from behind the desk and rushed to the hall. What did you say? The slaughtering king is holding my sister's hand and heading for the main hall. At the same time, Yun Ma Xiao, who was cultivating in his own garden, also received the servant's report. The slaughtering king, they're too brazen. It looks like Yen really isn't going to marry anyone but him, Yun Ma Xiao thought. Although the Li kingdom wasn't particularly conservative, it was still a taboo for a man and a woman to interact in public, especially if their relationship hadn't been confirmed yet. Things were even more complicated for Liamo and Yun Ruoyan, because they were master and disciple. Fortunately, the servants of the Yun manor weren't aware of this fact. Otherwise, within half a day, news of this master-disciple relationship would have spread far and wide, and Yun Ruoyan's already poor reputation would have worsened even further. Madam Xiaolan, the Yun matriarch's personal maid, rushed into the room. What's the matter? Why are you so flustered? Madam, the slaughtering king has come to propose marriage to master again, Xiaolan informed the Yun matriarch. Why again? The Yun matriarch frowned. Last time, Ruoyan had to sneak out to avoid him. Why is he here again? Yun Lan managed to get rid of him last time. Is he going to do it this time? The Yun matriarch didn't have a good impression of the slaughtering king. A cold-blooded killer like him wasn't her ideal son-in-law. No, it's not like that. Xiaolan waved her hands anxiously. Madam, why don't you go and take a look yourself? I'm afraid it's going to be difficult to get rid of this time. Not long after Yun Ruoyan and Liamo arrived at the main hall, Yun Lan, Yun Ma Xiao, and the Yun matriarch arrived one after another. Even Madame Qin Jianmei arrived with Yun Ruoyu. Ever since Madame Anne's madness, Qin Jianmei had temporarily taken over the role of mistress of the manor, handling all of Madame Anne's affairs. As a result, it wasn't surprising that she was here. Greetings, slaughtering king. As soon as Yun Lan entered the room, he bowed to Yun Lan as usual, but Liamo immediately stopped him from bowing. At the same time, he turned to the crowd behind Yun Lan. I'm not here today as the slaughtering king, but as a junior to ask official Yun to marry your daughter, Yun Ruoyan, to me. Slaughtering king. Before Yun Lan could speak, the Yun matriarch spoke up from behind him. As you know, Yen is not only the daughter of the Yun family, but also a student of Kongming Academy. As a result, not only must we listen to our parents and matchmakers, but we must also listen to her opinion. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but feel a little touched by the Yun matriarch's words. She knew that the Yun matriarch was afraid that Yun Lan would use her marriage as a bargaining chip, which was why she had hurried over to protect her. Grandmother. Yun Ruoyan walked up to the Yun matriarch and grabbed her arm. I'm willing to marry the slaughtering king. There may be two reasons why she was cold to her in the past. First, the Yun matriarch didn't like Lin Yuemei. As the saying goes, love the house, love the crow. Secondly, Yun Ruoyan's personality in her past life had never been likable. Could it be that other than Yun Lan, no one else in the Yun family knew of her parentage? Otherwise, why had no one mentioned it to her all these years, and she only found out about it now through other means? Madame Qin greets the slaughtering king. Qin Jianmei, Yun Ruoyu, and Yun Ma Xiao all stepped forward to pay their respects. At ease, Liamo said amiably. Today, I've personally come to propose a marriage. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Although Liemo had said that he wasn't here as the slaughtering king, no one dared to ignore the fact that he was the slaughtering king. As a result, when he and Yun Ruoyan stood together in the Great Hall, the others, including Yunlan, didn't dare sit down. Qin Jianmei, Yun Ruoyu, and Yun Maxiao stood to one side. Liemo and Yun Ruoyan stood side by side in the center of the Great Hall, while Yunlan stood in front of them. After the Yun matriarch's display, Liemo felt that there were no more obstacles to his proposal, but he still had to go through the motions. With a flip of his hand, Liemo retrieved a sandalwood box containing the cloud sky fruit. Yun Ruoyan hadn't been present the last time Liemo had proposed, and Yunlan had used the excuse that he hadn't agreed immediately. As a result, the cloud sky fruit was still in Liemo's hands. Official Yun, Yen, and I are very fond of each other, and we've already set a date for our wedding. I hope you'll agree. Liemo handed the box to Yunlan. Yunlan looked at Liemo, then at Yun Ruoyan, before finally accepting the box. Your Highness, it would be an honor for the Yun family to be betrothed to you, but your master-disciple relationship puts me in a difficult position. Official Yun, there's no need to feel troubled. I'll have the emperor announce the marriage to the world. Even if there's a public outcry, the Yun family's reputation won't be tarnished. Only then did Yunlan truly relax. With Liemo's suggestion, the two of them began discussing the details of the wedding. Most of the Yun household's affairs were now under Qin Jinmei's control, so she joined in the discussion. It took the three of them a full 4 hours to finalize the details of the wedding. I didn't expect you to be such a meticulous person, Your Highness, to personally ask about such complicated matters, Qin Jianmei exclaimed. Weddings were extremely complicated, and most wealthy families would have their stewards take care of them. What Qin Jianmei hadn't expected was that Liemo would personally ask about every detail. Liemo smiled faintly. I want to give Yen a flawless wedding. Liemo turned to Yun Ruoyan, who was smiling back at him. When their gazes met, their smiles deepened. Liemo had also ordered his men to investigate the whereabouts of the shamanic descendant who had poisoned Lin Yuemei, but strangely enough, even though there were traces of their presence around the capital, it was as if they had vanished into thin air. Have you found that physician? Liemo asked Yun Ruoyan. I found him, Yun Ruoyan replied. Where is Physician Tseng? After you left yesterday, I wanted to bring him back to the Yun Manor, but as soon as he reached the gates of the Yun Manor, he was so frightened that he refused to enter and even tried to run away. I had no choice but to bring him back to the Lin Manor, and he's currently locked up there. This Physician Tseng must know something, Liemo concluded. Let's go take a look at this Physician Tseng first. The three of them headed straight to the Lin Manor, where Lin Zainan personally brought them to a small courtyard to find Physician Tseng. As soon as they entered the small courtyard, Physician Tseng, who was sitting in the yard, stood up and complained, Miss Yun, I'm here on the orders of His Highness. Why did you lock me up? Physician Tseng, I brought you all the way back from Wu City because I wanted to ask you a few questions, not because I want you to give me a diagnosis. Yun Ruoyan didn't beat around the bush at all. You want to ask me a few questions? Physician Tseng's face was visibly pale as he slowly sat down on a chair. When he spoke again, his voice was subconsciously softer. I don't know any of you, so what would I know? Chapter 295. Physician Tseng's expression was clearly one of guilt. Yun Ruoyan immediately turned to him. Let me ask you, do you know of the Yun family? So what if I do? Physician Tseng raised his voice slightly. The Yun family is so famous in the Li Kingdom that anyone with a bit of knowledge would know of them. In that case, do you know of the 100 Herb Hall? Physician Tseng's pale face turned as white as a sheet of paper. The 100 Herb Hall was a medical center that Yunlan had opened for him in the capital. Since Yun Ruoyan even knew of the 100 Herb Hall, Physician Tseng knew that there was no way he could deny it now. Who are you, exactly? Physician Singh finally looked directly at Yun Ruoyan, Yun Ma Xiao, Liu Mo, and Lin Zainin. All four of them had an extraordinary aura, and it was obvious that they weren't ordinary people. Who we are isn't important to you, Physician Singh, Yun Ma Xiao said. All you need to do is answer our questions. What do you want to know? We want to know the true cause of death of the Yun Manor's young madam. Lin Zainin, who had been silent all this time, took 2 steps forward and looked at Physician Singh. Although Lin Zainin was already 70 years old, his eyes were still sharp and bright. Only someone with exceptional willpower would dare to look him in the eye when he was angry. Physician Singh only glanced at Lin Zainin briefly before turning his gaze elsewhere, as if he were deep in thought. The young madam of the Yun Manor. Physician Singh thought for a moment. It's been so long, I can't remember. Liar. Yun Ma Xiao exposed him. Yesterday, I brought you to the Yun Manor. Why were you so afraid that you wanted to run away? Yun Ma Xiao's tone was so severe that Physician Singh trembled in fear. Yun Ruoyan waved her hand at her brother, then walked over to Physician Singh and sat down on a stone bench opposite him. Physician Singh, I don't think you're a malicious person, so why are you covering up for someone else? Tell us everything you know, and we'll immediately send you back to Wu City, back to your family, Yun Ruoyan continued slowly. But if you insist on refusing to tell us, then we won't be so polite to you. With my friendship with your prince, even if I killed you, it wouldn't be a big deal. Yun Ruoyan could tell that this Physician Singh was a timid man. His behavior indicated that he definitely knew something, but perhaps because he was threatened, he refused to reveal anything. As a result, Yun Ruoyan decided to give him a scare, hoping to scare his mouth open. However, Yun Ruoyan seemed to have underestimated Physician Singh. Although he was scared, his mouth was tightly shut. After a long while, when the sky was almost dark, Dr. Singh refused to say a word. His head drooped listlessly, as if he were about to fall asleep. No matter who tried to speak to him, he would not respond. Looks like it's time to loosen his muscles. Yun Ma Xiao was a little anxious, and he was about to use force when Yun Ruoyan stopped him. Brother, you can't. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. Look at him. If you hit him twice, he'll probably die. How are we supposed to find any clues then? But we can't just keep wasting time with him. We have to think of something else, Yun Ma Xiao said anxiously. Qiu Qiu. Yun Ruoyan called out to Qiu Qiu in her mind. Mistress, what's the matter? Qiu Qiu woke up from its meditation. Why isn't my bewitching powder effective on this Physician Singh? Yun Ruoyan asked. Just now, when she saw that threatening Physician Singh had no effect, she had used the remaining bewitching powder on him. If used on the same person continuously within a short period of time, it would damage the person's brain, so Yun Ruoyan hadn't used it right from the start. However, she couldn't care less now, so she used the remaining bewitching powder on Physician Singh. However, the bewitching powder that had always been effective on Physician Singh was now completely ineffective. At this moment, he seemed to have lost his soul, and Yun Ruoyan's words were like wind passing by his ears. Is it because I used too little? Yun Ruoyan asked, puzzled. Physician Singh's just a commoner, and he doesn't have much spiritual energy. The remaining bewitching powder is more than enough for him, Qiu Qiu replied. And from the looks of it, he's under the effects of the bewitching powder. Then why isn't he listening to me? Yun Ruoyan had done quite a number of things in Wu City with a bag of bewitching powder, and even demons couldn't resist it at all. Why was it suddenly ineffective against this Physician Singh? There can only be one reason for this, Qiu Qiu replied. Qiu Qiu thought for a moment before replying, what you're asking is very important to him, so he's subconsciously resisting it. Mistress, what you're asking him must be more important than his own life. Even more important than his own life. No wonder he's so tight-lipped. Yen, Li Mo's voice suddenly interrupted Yun Ruoyan's thoughts. Go and dispel the bewitching powder. HM. Yes. Yun Ruoyan paused for a moment before proceeding to dispel the bewitching powder from Physician Singh. As if he had just dozed off, Physician Singh suddenly woke up and stared blankly at the four people in front of him. Yen, from what you said, does this Physician Singh have family in Wu City? Liamo asked abruptly. His tone was casual, but Physician Singh's body stiffened when he heard it. Yes, he has a wife and children. Yun Ruoyan thought back to the clothes she had seen hanging on the clothesline in the far-sighted king's manor. He has 3 children, a girl, about 12 or 13 years old, and 2 boys, a pair of twins, only 5 or 6 years old. This old man must be planning on staying here for a long time, Liamo continued nonchalantly. Not even glancing at Physician Singh. That woman told me that my wife wasn't suffering from any sort of illness, but rather that she had been poisoned by the same parasite that had afflicted the young mistress of the Yun family. However, this parasite was 10 times more potent, and she was the one who had poisoned her. The woman took out 2 pills and showed them to Physician Singh. One was the antidote for the parasite, and the other was a poison that would accelerate the poison's effects. That woman told me that my wife wouldn't be able to wait for me to return home and slowly nurse her back to health. If I wanted the antidote, I'd have to put the poison in the young mistress of the Yun family's medicine. As long as she died, someone would naturally give the antidote to my wife, Physician Singh said as he sobbed. I didn't want to harm anyone, I really didn't, but my wife was already pregnant with my first child, and I didn't want to lose both of our lives. So, you put the poison that could speed up the poison into my mother's decoction. Yun Ma Xiao roared at Physician Singh, his eyes bulging. Chapter 296. I didn't want to either, but my wife and my child. I couldn't just watch them die. Physician Singh prostrated himself on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. From then on, I only treated women's ailments, and never again treated people's illnesses or poisons. Over the past decade or so, I've never had a day of peace with my conscience. I know that you must be young Madame Yun's relatives, and that you've come to seek revenge on me. My death isn't to be regretted, but please spare my wife and child. They didn't know anything about this. Yun Ruoyan, Yun Ma Xiao, and Lin Zainan listened to Physician Singh's sobs, their hearts filled with grief and indignation. Lin Zainan staggered a few steps before his siblings helped him onto a stone stool. Grandfather, didn't you say that mother might still be alive? Don't be too sad, Yun Ruoyan whispered into Lin Zainan's ear. Only then did Lin Zainan slowly recover from his grief. Hearing with his own ears how others had harmed his most beloved daughter, this kind of feeling really pained him to the core. After a long while, Yun Ruoyan slowly knelt down by Physician Singh's side. Your death truly isn't to be regretted, but there's someone more deserving of death than you. The woman who gave you the poison, do you know who she is? I don't know. Physician Singh finally stopped crying. She was wearing a veil, and the veil around her veil extended all the way to the ground. Not only did it cover her face, but even her body was obscured. Yun Ruoyan frowned deeply. In that case, even if you saw that woman again, you wouldn't be able to recognize her. I wouldn't be able to. Physician Singh buried his head in his chest. He knew that if he could recognize that woman, then he would still have some value in his existence. But Physician Singh didn't want to lie to his conscience in order to survive. Moreover, he wouldn't be able to deceive these people in front of him, and he might even bring trouble to his family. Rather than that, he might as well tell the truth. As Physician Singh thought about this, he suddenly remembered a detail from that night he had spoken to that woman more than a decade ago. I remember now. Physician Singh suddenly stood up from the ground. What did you think of? Everyone turned to look at him. Smell. Dr. Singh spoke hurriedly, as if he would forget the image in his mind if he spoke too slowly. That woman has a very strange smell. How so? Yun Ruoyan asked hurriedly. I'm a doctor. I deal with herbs all year round, so my nose is especially sensitive to smells. So even after more than 10 years, I can still remember that woman's scent. Dr. Tsing frowned as he recalled, saying, it was a very strange sandalwood scent, as if one had burned incense and prayed to Buddha all year round. Their clothes and bodies would be stained with the scent of sandalwood, but the scent was too strong. It wasn't quiet, it was very strange. The scent of sandalwood, left behind by years of burning incense and praying to Buddha. It's strong but not soothing, Yun Ruoyan repeated physician Tsing's words. Yen, have you thought of something? Liamo asked when he saw her muttering to herself. Ruoyan, did you discover something? Yun Maxiao had also noticed his daughter's abnormality. Yun Ruoyan shook her head, but then she nodded and frowned. I think of someone, but I don't think it's possible. Who? Yun Maxiao asked hurriedly. Madame Lin, Qin Jianmei. Yun Ruoyan thought for a moment before revealing her suspicions. Madame Lin. Yun Maxiao was also shocked. Ruoyan, are you sure you're not mistaken? How could Madame Qin be the woman who poisoned Mother? Liamo and Lin Zainan weren't familiar with Qin Jianmei, so they didn't speak. Instead, they listened to Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao's analysis. I also hope that she's not. After all, she once took care of me, Yun Ruoyan said. But I've only smelled that strange sandalwood scent from Madame Qin before, and it's also from Madame Qin's body. It's just that it's very faint, and it's hard to detect unless you're very close to her. Ruoyan, just the scent of sandalwood doesn't seem to be enough, Yun Maxiao replied. Yun Maxiao had a very good impression of Madame Qin. In his mind, she had always been a simple, elegant woman who didn't fight for anything. Could such a woman be their mother's murderer? Yun Maxiao couldn't believe it. That's not all, Yun Ruoyan continued. Ever since Madame Qin left the cottage, I feel like she's changed a lot. Even Yun Ruoyu has changed a lot. In the past, Qin Jianmei had rarely stepped out of the cottage, much less voluntarily enter the main hall to discuss matters with others. But now, not only did Qin Jianmei frequently leave the cottage, she was also in charge of all the affairs in the manor, as if she were the new mistress of the Yun manor. Similarly, Yun Ruoyu had changed a lot. Her once arrogant and willful personality had become so gentle and submissive. Those who didn't know her well would surely think that she had been born with a soft and gentle personality. Actually, everyone in the Yun manor had noticed the changes in Qin Jianmei and Yun Ruoyu. However, to everyone, the change in the mother and daughter was a good thing. In the past, Qin Jianmei's cold personality had made it difficult for anyone to get close to her. Now, however, she smiled at everyone, was very polite, and was very attentive. In the past, Yun Ruoyu would often scold her servants for their mistakes, but now, she was very kind to them. As a result, everyone was happy to see the changes in the two of them. Even Yun Maxiao felt the same way. I only feel that Madame Qin and Ruoyu have become easier to get along with than before. There's nothing special about them, Yun Maxiao said. Yun Ruoyan, however, didn't think so. A leopard couldn't change its spots. Unless it was someone like her, who had survived a life and death ordeal and been reborn, how could their personality change so drastically in such a short period of time? In that case, what exactly had happened to Qin Jianmei and Yun Ruoyu to make them seem like completely different people? Yen, since you suspect her, you should investigate her. If she really is the woman who poisoned Yun Ruoyu 10 years ago, she'll surely leave behind some clues that will allow us to uncover the truth, Liamo instructed. I'll send Imo Wei to investigate this matter as well. Physician Tsing had thought that he was dead for sure, but unexpectedly, Yun Ruoyan and the others had no intention of killing him. Before we find the woman who poisoned you, we can't let you go, Yun Ruoyan replied. I'll send someone to inform your wife and children, and the far-sighted king will take care of them. Just stay here and wait for the confrontation with that woman. After interrogating physician Singh, they had a simple meal at the Lin Manor before leaving. By then, the sky was completely dark. Ruoyan, aren't you coming home with me? Yun Ma Xiao asked as he watched Li Mo drag Yun Ruoyan toward the slaughtering king's carriage. Return to the manor with me, Li Mo said before Yun Ruoyan could respond. Yun Ma Xiao didn't know how to refute Li Mo's words. He naturally knew that Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were often alone together. If Li Mo weren't a gentleman, the two of them would have long since done what they were supposed to do. That was something that he couldn't control or interfere with. But to see a man take away his underage sister so casually in the middle of the night, Yun Ma Xiao really found it hard to accept. Brother, I just received a sword yesterday, and Li Mo wants to teach me how to use it. Yun Ruoyan turned back to her brother and smiled. Don't worry, I'll take care of myself. Yun Ruoyan grabbed Li Mo's hand and climbed into the carriage. The servant signaled for the carriage to move off in the direction of the slaughtering king's manor. A grown girl really can't be kept at home. Yun Ma Xiao couldn't help but sigh as he watched the carriage disappear around the corner of the road. When Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo arrived at the slaughtering king's manor, Li Mo immediately summoned Su Nan and had him investigate Qin Jianmei. After Su Nan left, Yun Ruoyan excitedly took out the scarlet eye and had Li Mo teach her how to use it. If you want to learn how to use it, you'll first have to learn the first part of the technique, Li Mo explained. The main purpose of the technique was to refine spiritual swords and make them one with the wielder's will. Once the spiritual sword was connected to the wielder's will, it could change its size according to the wielder's wishes. As for how much it could change, it was limited by the wielder's cultivation. As soon as she finished speaking, the demon dragon tomb emitted countless dragon roars of various sizes. Some were low, some were loud, some were angry, and some were mournful. At the same time, countless green and scarlet dragon eyes flashed. The great elder, who had seen countless grand scenes, couldn't help but feel nervous in such a situation. He was ready to make a move at any moment. Empress Shuetong was not affected at all. Her voice was cold and emotionless, but it could stir up the anger and misery in people's hearts. You've been sealed here for 1,000 years. Don't you want to break through the shackles and return to the sky? The image of Black Dragon looked at Shuetong and narrowed its eyes. The demon dragon bloodline has already appeared. The day we break through the seal is near. You don't have to worry about it, Empress. Ha! Hearing Black Dragon's words, Shuetong actually laughed out loud. The bloodline of the demon dragon has been passed down from generation to generation. From 1,000 years ago until now, it has been passed down for no less than 100 generations. If it was as easy as Elder Shuetong said, then as long as you found a descendant of the bloodline, you would be able to break the seal. As Shuetong spoke, her sharp eyes stared at Black Dragon. Black Dragon didn't respond, but his two dragon whiskers suddenly trembled. Shuetong ignored Black Dragon's suppressed anger and continued. As far as I know, in order to break through the seal of the Demon Dragon clan, one must not only find a descendant of the Demon Dragon clan's bloodline, but also strengthen them until they reach the realm of great perfection. Only then can they cultivate the Demon Dragon true body. But even if these conditions are met, using the powerful Demon Dragon true body to forcefully break through the seal is an extremely dangerous matter. A single misstep could result in the destruction of one's soul. In the first 200 years, there were many experts with the Demon Dragon bloodline who attempted to break through the seal. Unfortunately, they all failed. Later on, the clans with the Demon Dragon bloodline thought that this was an impossible mission and that it would be a wasted sacrifice. From then on, those with the demonic dragon bloodline stopped cooperating and abandoned their mission. Not only did they sever all ties with the demonic dragon clan, but they also began to conceal their identities and attempt to live the lives of ordinary people on the Qinyuan continent. After hundreds of years of reproduction, they are now no different from ordinary people, and the demon dragon bloodline in their bodies has become thinner and thinner. Finding someone with such a concentrated demon dragon bloodline on the Qinyuan continent and able to cultivate the demon dragon true body is more difficult than finding a needle in a haystack. Xuetong revealed the secret of the demon dragon clan word by word. A few decades ago, you found a man who possessed the blood of the demon dragon, and helped him cultivate the demon dragon's real body. Unfortunately, that person was just like his ancestors, unwilling to sacrifice himself for you. Xuetong paused for a moment, then continued to look at Black Dragon. Do you think that this person with the demon dragon bloodline will be willing to sacrifice himself for you? Missions and bloodlines will be washed away in the long river of time. Who would be willing to sacrifice themselves for someone who had little to do with them 1,000 years ago? Empress Xuetong added. You know quite a bit, the demon dragon phantom finally said. The mystic dragon phantom finally said, then, are you confident that after this bloodline inheritor has gone through countless hardships to become strong, she will be willing to risk her life and sacrifice herself for unrelated souls like us? Of course. Xuetong replied without hesitation. That's why I'm here today. If I wasn't confident, I wouldn't have taken the risk. Oh. Why are you so confident? The demon dragon asked, its two long whiskers quivering once more. Because of love, Empress Xuetong replied. Empress Xuetong replied, have you ever wondered why those who possess the bloodline of the demon dragon would abandon their mission and conceal their identities? They're cowards. Black Dragon snorted. That's only a small part of the reason, Xuetong said. Xuetong said, the biggest reason is love. Death means separation from one's family, friends, and lovers. As an inheritor of the demon dragon bloodline, everyone has to face this separation at the peak of their lives. If they don't succeed, their descendants will face the same fate. That's why they chose to abandon their missions. So it's because of love, the demon dragon said, suddenly understanding. They can abandon their missions for love, but they can also accept the mission and sacrifice themselves for love, Xuetong continued. It all depends on how the person who controls love controls it. So, you're sure you can control the current inheritor of the demon dragon bloodline? The demon dragon suddenly approached Xuetong and asked. She will become my daughter-in-law. Xuetong said with certainty. She loves my son very much. As long as it's done properly, she will be willing to complete her mission. Good. The demon dragon said. Its huge body circled above the demon dragon tomb, bringing with it a huge flow of water. The demon dragon tomb was also filled with a dragon's roar. Empress, tell me your request. The demon dragon stopped in front of Xuetong and asked. Xuetong looked at the demon dragon's crimson eyes. I'm sure you're aware of my situation. My request is that after you're resurrected, you help me destroy the Silver Dragon clan in order to avenge me for killing my husband and stealing my body. Chapter 298. Yun Ruoyan flipped through the stack of documents in front of Liamo. She couldn't help but laugh. I thought the Slaughtering King was busy with his work, but I didn't know you were reading these. Yun Ruoyan smiled. The documents on the table were filled with drawings of hairpins. There were simple jade hairpins, and there were also some complicated golden hairpins. After the new year, you'll be a marriageable woman. By then, you'll be able to wear all sorts of hairpins. I'll have to prepare everything for you in advance, Liamo continued. Liamo continued, also, clothes for cultivation, casual clothes, and some formal attire. Why don't you let Sisterly Luo handle that? Yun Ruoyan smiled. And I won't have a chance to wear all the clothes you've prepared. After the wedding, I'll have to train, and then head to the alternate dimension. You won't want me to bring these clothes with me, will you? Liemo smiled. He knew that Yun Ruoyan wouldn't need much of the clothes he had prepared, but he couldn't help but want to do them himself, as if only by doing so could he express the joy in his heart. I can change the size of the scarlet eye as I please now. Yun Ruoyan stood up from Liemo's lap. Why don't you hand me the second half of the imperial sword technique now? Just as Yun Ruoyan pulled Liemo up from behind the table, Su Nan's voice came from outside the study. Your Highness, I've prepared the information you asked me to investigate on Jian Mei of the Qin matriarch. Yun Ruoyan's face lit up as she glanced at Liemo. Come in. Su Nan pushed open the door and entered, a stack of documents in his hands. When he saw Yun Ruoyan, he nodded and bowed to her, then stood to the side, as if he had entered a meditative state. These are the documents that the MO guards have found on Qin Jian Mei. Liemo pulled Yun Ruoyan to a seat, and the two of them began flipping through Qin Jianmei's documents. There was information on her household registration, as well as proof of her identity, and some of her life experiences. So Madame Qin isn't from the capital, Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. According to the documents, Qin Jianmei had followed her father to the capital when she was young, and her father was a traveling physician. So you've known my father for a long time, even before my mother married into the Yun manor. Yun Ruoyan handed Liemo a stack of documents. The contents recorded some of Qin Jianmei and Yunlan's encounters. It turned out that after Qin Jianmei entered the imperial city with her father often went to the aristocratic families to treat the nobles because of his superb medical skills. The Yun residence was also a place they frequented, and it was at that time that Qin Jianmei met Yunlan. Then, in the third year after they arrived in the imperial city, Qin Jianmei's father suddenly died at home. The cause was unknown. From then on, Qin Jianmei lived alone in the capital as a medicine master until she married Yunlan as a concubine and gave birth to Yun Ruoyu. Since then, she had been living in the plum-cutting pavilion of the Yun residence. She rarely went out and had little contact with others. Is there any information on Third Yinyang before she came to the imperial city? Where are they from? Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. Su Nan, who had entered a meditative state, raised his head. Before entering the capital, Madame Qin had been roaming the Qinyuan continent, and there were traces of them in almost every kingdom. As for what happened while they were roaming the continent, it's impossible to find out anything about their hometown. I didn't expect Madame Qin's origins to be so mysterious, Yun Ruoyan murmured. After reading through the documents, Liemo handed them back to Su Nan for him to sort through, and Su Nan left with the documents. Although Mo Wei's findings couldn't prove that Madame Qin was the woman who had poisoned Yun Ruoyan all those years ago, her mysteriousness had once again piqued Yun Ruoyan's interest. Liemo, have you heard of the broodmother parasite? Yun Ruoyan asked casually as she lay in Liemo's lap and looked out the window. Yes, the one that poisoned you before, Liemo replied casually as he stroked Yun Ruoyan's hair. Yun Ruoyan sat up immediately and looked at Liemo in surprise. How did you know? Do you still remember the first time we met? I knew you were poisoned. Liemo smiled at Yun Ruoyan's surprised expression. Yes, you wanted to return the favor, so you promised to cure me, Yun Ruoyan suddenly said mischievously. I did accept 2 bottles of spiritual pills from you afterward, but I didn't know if I could cure you or not. I bet you'd forgotten about it. Fortunately, grandfather cured me of the poison. Liemo, if that's the case, don't you still owe me a big favor? I didn't forget about it. In order to investigate the origins of the poison, I made a trip to the Yu Kingdom. There, I found out that the poison came from a shamanic tribe, and I met with a shamanic elder. However, I only managed to learn the name of the poison from him before he self-detonated, Liemo explained. At that time, only the first elder was left in the shamanic village. The rest of the tribe had already wandered the continent, and I had no way of obtaining the antidote. Fortunately, the next time I saw you, you had already cured yourself of the poison. After Liemo finished speaking, the two of them looked at each other and smiled, their thoughts simultaneously returning to that afternoon when the phoenix flowers were in full bloom. Liemo floated down from beneath the phoenix orchid tree, wrapping her in a loose black robe. That was their second close encounter, and it was also at that time that Liemo realized that Yun Ruoyan was different from the others. I suspect that Madame Qin might be from the shamanic tribe, Yun Ruoyan suddenly said. Yen, why do you say that? Liemo asked. Madame Qin of the Yun family and a shamanic tribe living deep in the mountains of the Yu kingdom were worlds apart, and most people wouldn't associate the two together. That's just my guess. Yun Ruoyan lay back in Liemo's embrace, frowning as she sorted out her thoughts. Grandfather had an ancient book that recorded the child-mother parasite poison. The book said that the child-mother parasite poison originated from a shamanic tribe in the Yu kingdom, which is exactly what you found. The book also said that this tribe worshipped the reincarnated Buddha, and that they had to burn incense and pray day and night. Madame Qin worshipped the Buddha from morning till night. However, there were many people who worshipped the Buddha, and many of them were as devout as Qin Jianmei. As a result, this was only a small part of Yun Ruoyan's theory. Also, I smelled the strange sandalwood fragrance that Dr. Tsing mentioned in the plum-cutting pavilion. This is also one of the bases for my deduction. Yun Ruoyan tapped her chin with her finger. And the sudden changes in Madame Qin and Ruoyu during this period of time are all very strange. When there were more than 3 suspicious points in a matter, it would become suspicious. What about the motive? Does Madame Qin have a grudge against your mother? Yun Ruoyan shook her head. I heard that they were on good terms, and she took good care of me and my brother when we were young. If they didn't have a grudge against each other, why would Madame Qin poison my mother with such a venomous parasite? Yun Ruoyan sat up from Liemo's lap. No matter what the motive is, and whether or not Madame Qin is the one who poisoned my mother, I'm going to resolve my doubts. I've decided to visit Plum Clipping Cottage tonight. Night came quickly, and along with the darkness came a heavy snow that covered the sky. In the snowy night, Liemo flew Yun Ruoyan all the way to the back mountain of the Yun Manor. The back mountain was connected to the Yun Manor, and it was only a single wall away from Qin Jianmei's cottage. Liemo sheathed his sword and followed Yun Ruoyan over the wall, arriving at Plum Clipping Cottage. It was already late at night. The plum-cutting pavilion and even the entire residence of Yun was silent. Although it was late at night and the plum-cutting pavilion was quiet, the temple hall on the west side was still brightly lit. Were they still praying so late at night? Yun Ruoyan and Liemo glanced at each other before walking up to the window of the western room. Yun Ruoyan and Liemo both poked at the window and peered inside. A slender figure appeared in front of them. It was Qin Jianmei. They saw Qin Jianmei kowtow 3 times in front of the altar, then light a stick of sandalwood and place it into the censer. Yun Ruoyan could smell the fragrance even through the window. Yun Ruoyan's gaze followed the rising sandalwood incense, and then she discovered something strange. Something's not right, Yun Ruoyan murmured. What's not right? Liemo asked. The statue of Buddha isn't right, Yun Ruoyan replied. The last time I was here, I clearly saw a bodhisattva on the altar. How did it turn out to be a Buddha this time? Liemo also looked at the incense burner. Behind the incense, there was indeed a Buddha, not a guanyin. A Buddha in the past, and a guanyin in the present. Madame Qin is indeed a descendant of the shamanic tribe. Yun Ruoyan was about to break the window when Liemo pulled her back. That alone isn't enough to convict her. Who's there? Their actions alerted Qin Jianmei, who was inside the house. She turned to look at the window and shouted in a low voice before walking towards the window. Meow! Meow! Suddenly, 2 cat meows made him stop in his tracks. It was 2 cats in heat playing by the window, scratching the paper of the window. Two little beasts, how dare you disturb the Buddha's cultivation? Qin Jinmei's beautiful face suddenly turned gloomy. She then swung her hand at the two cats on the window, and two thin needles flew out and pierced into the two cats' vital parts. The two cats didn't even have a chance to scream before they fell out of the window and into the snow. What a powerful needle technique, Liemo thought as he pulled Yun Ruoyan away from the cottage. Liemo, let go of me. Why didn't you let me catch her on the spot? Yun Ruoyan asked. So what if I caught her on the spot? Kill her. Liemo countered. If killing her would solve the problem, wouldn't it be too simple? Chapter 299. She's a member of the shamanic tribe, and the poison that my mother and I were afflicted with can only be concocted by a member of the shamanic tribe. She's definitely the one who poisoned us all those years ago. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed agitatedly. So what? Liemo countered. This woman isn't simple. If you just barge in and question her, she'll only grit her teeth and refuse to confess. Naturally, she won't give you the answer you want. Even if you threaten her with death, she might not give in. She's a pill master herself, and I'm afraid your bewitching powder won't work on her. Yun Ruoyan knew that she couldn't kill Qin Jinmei on the spot. She still had many questions that she needed her to answer. However, Yun Ruoyan was at a loss as to how to get her to confess to her crimes. She tugged at Liemo's sleeve and shook it. Then what do you think we should do? Liemo looked at Yun Ruoyan, brushed away the snow on her head, and put on the hood that he had given her. Everyone has a weakness. If you can find it, she'll definitely open her mouth. Yun Ruoyan nodded. You'll have to be careful. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but think back to when they had interrogated Physician Tseng. Although Physician Tseng looked weak and cowardly, he was willing to die to protect his wife and child. In order to protect his family, he had been able to use his mental strength to resist the bewitching powder. However, Liemo's request to bring his family over had instantly broken through his defenses. It was clear that grasping a person's weakness was indeed the most effective way to break through their defenses. If Physician Tseng's family was his weakness, then Qin Jinmei's weakness could only be Yun Ruoyu. In the capital, in the Yun household, Yun Ruoyu was Qin Jinmei's only descendant. Liemo, I know what to do now. Yun Ruoyan looked at Liemo, her lips curving up in a smile. You're smart, Yin, Liemo's lips curled up as well. The next day, Yun Ruoyan returned to the Yun manor. She first paid her respects to Yun Lan, then went to speak with the Yun matriarch for a while before returning to her rooms. As soon as Yun Ruoyan returned to her rooms, Ling Lan reported to her that her brother, Che Mingchen, had passed the imperial examinations. Because Yun Ruoyan hadn't spent much time at her cottage, Ling Lan hadn't had a chance to bring up the matter with her. Now that Yun Ruoyan had finally returned, before she could even sit down and have a sip of hot tea, Ling Lan had come to inform her of the matter. That's indeed a good thing. Yun Ruoyan smiled as she helped Shilan up from her kneeling position. Quite a few days had passed since Yun Ruoyan had found out that Che Mingchen had passed the examinations. Ling Lan said that Che Mingchen had already received his official post and would be taking up his post in a few days. Moreover, Che Mingchen Ling was an official in the capital. Although the official position was not high, it was still a promising one. It's all thanks to your help that day, Mississippi. Otherwise, who knows whether Shilan would still be alive. Shilan began to cry. In the future, even if I have to go through fire and water, I'll be willing to do anything for you, Mississippi, silly child. Yun Ruoyan patted Shilan's head and instructed Peony to give her a large red packet worth 500 taels of silver. As an official, you'll have to bribe everyone. Take this and pass it to your brother in the future. Tell him to cherish this opportunity. He'll have to adapt to the circumstances, and this is especially true of being an official. Don't let him be as reckless and impulsive as he used to be. Ling Lan didn't refuse. Instead, she accepted the money, but she would remember this favor deeply. Yun Ruoyan gave Ling Lan a few more days off, and she left happily. By the time it was almost noon, Yun Ruoyan had Shilan prepare a few delicacies in the kitchen, then had Peony invite Yun Maxiao over to her room. The siblings chatted as they ate and drank in Yun Ruoyan's small room. Peony, I don't need anyone to serve me anymore. Why don't you and Shilan return to your room to warm up? Yun Ruoyan looked at the two servants standing by her side. Peony nodded and was about to leave when Shilan spoke up. Miss, I've already made plans with Sister Xiaolan to teach me how to draw flowers. It's almost time. Can I go? Go, go. Yun Ruoyan smiled and waved her hand. Thank you, Mississippi. Shilan skipped out of the courtyard, and Peony shook her head as she returned to her room. Once everyone had been sent away by Yun Ruoyan, Yun Maxiao put down his chopsticks and looked at Yun Ruoyan. Ruoyan, is there something you want to tell me? As a result, Yun Ruoyan told her brother what she and Li Moi had seen and heard the day before. Could it really be Madame Qin? Yun Maxiao stared blankly for a long while before finally accepting Yun Ruoyan's words. But why would she do such a thing? She doesn't have any grudges with mother, and she's not the type to be jealous. Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao had always suspected Madame An to be the culprit, but they hadn't expected Madame Qin to be the most unlikely culprit. I don't know the reason either, so Li Mo and I plan to. Yun Ruoyan whispered her plan to Yun Maxiao. Will this work? Yun Maxiao frowned. It's best not to hurt anyone. We'll be careful not to hurt anyone, Yun Ruoyan assured him. And we won't let anyone know that we're the culprit. Yun Ruoyan took a sip of wine, then looked at her brother with bright eyes. Brother, just wait for the truth to be revealed. Miss, young master, bad news. Just then, Shilan, who had been gone for less than 10 minutes, rushed back into the courtyard. As soon as she entered the courtyard, she shouted as she ran, startling Peony. What's the matter? Why are you so flustered? Yun Ruoyan asked once Shilan had gotten close. It's the third miss. Shilan had run so quickly that she was a little out of breath. What's the third miss? Peony also walked in and asked Shilan curiously. The third miss has been kidnapped. Shilan took a deep breath and finally managed to finish her sentence. What? The third miss has been kidnapped. Peony repeated Shilan's words in shock. Are you sure? Who would be so bold as to kidnap the first miss of the Yun Manor? It's true. Shilan quickly confirmed. I just arrived at Xiang Lan's cottage and found a brush and ink to learn how to paint from Sister Xiaolan. Suddenly, a servant came to report that the third miss had been kidnapped, and the old mistress was woken up from her afternoon nap. She's already gone to Master Yun's residence to check on the situation. Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao glanced at each other, the same thought occurring in their minds. The plan has begun. Brother, it's about time for us to show our faces, Yun Ruoyan said as she stood up from her stool. By the time the siblings arrived at Yun Lan's study, the Yun matriarch was already there. She was sitting at the head of the table, her expression serious. Madame Qin was standing by the side, sobbing uncontrollably, but her voice was soft and gentle. Father, Ruoyu and I were having a meal in Yun Ruoyu's cottage when we suddenly heard from the servant that something had happened to her. What's going on? Yun Maxiao asked his father. Look at this. Yun Lan handed a piece of paper to Yun Maxiao, who read it with his daughter. Official Yun, the two of us were passing by your residence and heard that you were a generous person, so we'd like to ask for a high-grade spiritual pill and 3 mid-grade spiritual pills from you. We've invited the third miss of your family to be our guest, and we'd like to ask Master Yun to personally deliver the pills to the bun shop at the foot of the Minghuang Mountain. The day we see the pills will be the day she returns to the manor. Signed by the Black-White Twin Demons. Ruoyu has indeed been kidnapped. Yun Ma Xiao exclaimed as he placed the letter on the table. Usually, Ruoyu would accompany me for morning lessons early in the morning, but she's been feeling a little unwell these past few days, so I let her rest more. But today, I didn't see her at all, even past noon. I was worried, so I went to her cottage to check on her. In the end, when I entered the room, I discovered that Ruoyu's maid had been drugged and was lying unconscious on the couch. Ruoyu was nowhere to be seen and there was only this letter left on her bed. Madam, you don't have to worry too much. If this black-white twin demons wants the spiritual pill, they won't hurt Ruoyu. Yun Ruoyan walked up to Qin Jinmei's side and comforted her. At the same time, Yun Ruoyan carefully observed Qin Jinmei's expression. Qin Jinmei's anxious expression wasn't an act. It seemed that her judgment was correct. Yun Ruoyu was indeed Qin Jinmei's weakness. Master, who are these black-white twin demons? Will they hurt you, Qin Jinmei asked Yunlan. After we give them the spiritual pill, they'll surely let her go, right? I've heard of the black and white femme and masculine duo. Yunlan looked at Qin Jinmei pitifully. Last time, they caused a ruckus at the Yuelu villa, and they were in the limelight for quite a while. However, they seemed to be targeting the Yuelu villa. Why would they suddenly attack the Yun manor? Yunlan frowned in confusion and muttered to himself. Father! Yun Ma Xiao called out, interrupting Yunlan's train of thought. Father, now's not the time to be thinking about the reason. Saving Ruoyu is more important. Yes, saving her is more important. Yunlan turned to Qin Jinmei. Don't worry too much, these black-white twin demons aren't evil beyond redemption. At least for now, Ruoyu is safe. In that case, let's not wait here alone. The Yun matriarch suddenly sat up from her seat. Her originally stooped back instantly straightened a lot. She said, Yunlan, quickly go get the elixir. Shao, you'll accompany your father. Everyone else, go back to your own courtyards and wait for news. Chapter 300. After the Yun matriarch gave the order, everyone began to move out. Yun Ma Xiao accompanied Yunlan to retrieve the spiritual herbs and then prepared to head to the Minghuang mountain. The Yun matriarch had originally wanted Qin Jianmei to return to her quarters with her to await news, but Qin Jianmei had worriedly insisted on returning to her quarters to beg Guanyin for help. Seeing this, the Yun matriarch didn't force her. Grandmother, you don't look too well. Should I call for a physician? Yun Ruoyan asked when she saw the Yun matriarch's pale face. The Yun matriarch waved her hand. I'm fine. I was just taking an afternoon nap when I was suddenly woken up. In that case, I won't disturb you any longer. Rest well, and I'll come visit you later. After sending the Yun matriarch back to her quarters, Yun Ruoyan immediately returned to her own quarters, instructing Shilan and Peony that she would be cultivating in her room and not to be disturbed. As soon as Yun Ruoyan entered her quarters, she saw Liemo sitting quietly at the table, waiting for her. Liemo was dressed in a white robe that accentuated his tall figure. His hair was no longer loose, but was instead tied up casually at the back of his head, revealing a well-defined forehead, a pair of sword-like eyebrows, and a pair of deep, narrow eyes. Yun Ruoyan felt as if he had suddenly become 7 or 8 years younger. In truth, Liemo was only 23 or 24, but his usual attire made him appear at least 10 years older than his actual age. Yen, what's wrong? Is there a problem? Liemo stood up when he saw Yun Ruoyan staring at him in a daze. No problem at all. Yun Ruoyan immediately waved her hands, then looked at him with sparkling eyes. Liemo, you look so good this way. It'd be nice to dress up like this every day. Liemo smiled coolly. It's not that easy to establish my image as the slaughtering king. If I were to go out like this, I'm afraid no one would recognize me. I'm dressing up like this today to confuse Yunlan. Although Yunlan was famed for his discerning eyes, Li Mo's attire made it impossible for anyone to associate him with the slaughtering king. Li Mo put on a green, fanged mask and stood up. Alright, let's set off. As Yun Ruoyan spoke with Li Mo, she had already changed into a black nightgown and covered herself with a loose cloak. Then, she took out a mask with green teeth and a red face and put it on. Li Mo flew on his sword in the direction of the Minghuang mountain. Their destination, however, wasn't the bun shop at the foot of the mountain, but a tea house only a kilometer away from the bun shop. As for Qin Jianmei, after she returned to the plum-cutting pavilion, she immediately changed into a set of light clothes and climbed over the wall to the back of the mountain. After that, she bought a horse from the horse market on the street and rushed towards the Minghuang mountain. Her destination was the tea house at the foot of the mountain. Early that morning, Qin Jianmei had gone to Yun Ruoyu's courtyard. When she discovered that Yun Ruoyu had been kidnapped, she had found 2 letters on her bed. One of them was for Yunlan to see, signed by the black-white twin demons, and containing a request for a spiritual herb. The other was for Qin Jianmei, asking her to go to the tea house alone, claiming that an old friend had invited her for a chat. Because she was worried about Yun Ruoyu, Qin Jianmei didn't hesitate to go to the tea house alone. Meanwhile, Yunlan and Yun Maxiao had arrived at the bun shop at the foot of the Minghuang mountain. The only person they saw was Su Nan disguised as the owner of the bun shop. "What would you like to order, dear customers?" Su Nan, dressed as a waiter, approached Yunlan and Yun Maxiao as they entered the shop. "I'm looking for someone," Yun Maxiao replied. Yunlan's sharp gaze swept over the customers in the shop. There were only 4 or 5 customers in the shop, and they all seemed to be very ordinary people, be it in terms of clothing or aura. "Who are the 2 guests looking for?" the waiter asked again. Yunlan turned to the waiter in front of him. He immediately noticed that this waiter was different from the rest. Although Su Nan had already retracted his aura, Yunlan had extraordinary observation skills. He could tell whether a person was an expert from the look in their eyes. Yunlan could tell from the waiter's eyes that only an expert would be able to conceal their sharpness. "The goods are ready. We're looking for the person to receive them." Before Yun Maxiao could speak, Yunlan spoke up, his eyes shrouded in shadows as he looked at Su Nan. "Please come in, dear customers." Su Nan courteously ushered Yun Maxiao and Yunlan into the back of the shop. "Where's my daughter, Ruoyu?" As soon as they entered, Yunlan's spiritual energy exploded from his body. He reached out and grabbed Su Nan's neck, pressing him against the wall. Su Nan had no intention of retaliating. He struggled a little before replying with difficulty, "Miss Ruoyu isn't here. I've been ordered by my master to wait for the 2 of you. The carriage is right behind us. Please come with me to see my master. He's going to invite you to watch a good show." Qin Jianmei sprinted all the way to the tea house that had been mentioned on the letter. But at this moment, the tea house was empty, and not a single person could be seen. "I'm here. Where's my daughter?" Qin Jianmei kicked open the tea house's door and shouted at the empty room. A man and a woman walked out from behind a screen on the 2nd floor. The man was dressed in a tight-fitting white robe and wore a green, fanged mask. The woman was dressed in a loose cloak and a red, green mask. These 2 were none other than the black-white twin demons, disguised by Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan. "Madam Yun, you're right on time." His voice was very hoarse and obscure. Just by listening to his voice, it was hard to tell if he was doing it on purpose or if he was born like this. "So you're the black-white twin demons. Where's my daughter? What do you want?" Qin Jianmei raised her head to look at the 2 men on the 2nd floor. "Don't worry, your daughter's fine for now," the man continued. "We're here because of a lawsuit from more than 10 years ago, and we'd like you to settle it." "More than 10 years ago?" What lawsuit? Qin Jianmei asked doubtfully. I've been staying in the Yun household for the past 10 years, and I've hardly ever left the house. What lawsuit could I have possibly offended? The man didn't seem to be in a hurry. To be precise, it was 13 years ago, or perhaps even earlier. About 15 years ago, did you do anything shameful? As Liamo spoke, he stared sharply at Qin Jianmei through his mask. When Qin Jianmei heard the man's words, she was slightly startled. 15 years ago, she had done more than one shameful thing. In that 1 year, she seemed to have done all the shameful things she had done in her entire life. However, Qin Jianmei, who had done something shameful, did not feel guilty at all. She straightened her slender waist, raised her chin, and declared righteously, I, Qin Jianmei, have lived an honest life, and I've never done anything shameful. You're lying. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help pointing a finger at Qin Jianmei. There's a price to pay for lying, and your daughter will have to pay for it. What are you trying to do? Qin Jianmei growled. If you want to deal with me, come at me. Don't touch my daughter. She's the third miss of the Yun family, and if you dare hurt her, the Yun family won't let you off. When Yun Ruoyan heard this, she grew even angrier. She was just about to question him when Liamo stopped her in time. Liamo whispered into Yun Ruoyan's ear, your father's watching us from the other side. Don't say anything, lest he notice anything amiss. All you have to do is to stand quietly by my side. Yun Ruoyan suppressed her anger, nodded, and took 2 steps back to stand behind Liamo. You know that every wrong has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Liamo's voice was cold and hoarse as he looked at Qin Jianmei. The grudges between parents shouldn't be carried over to their children, so why did you use the broodmother poison to harm them? As soon as she heard the words, broodmother poison, Qin Jianmei's face, which had been flushed with anger, suddenly paled. What broodmother poison? What do you mean harm them? I don't understand what you're saying at all. Are you trying to frame me? Qin Jianmei hurriedly retorted. Liamo knew that Qin Jianmei wouldn't be easy to deal with, but the more difficult it was, the more interesting it would be. If you don't know about broodmother poison, then don't you know about the shamanic tribe, the bodhisattva of present life, and the Buddha of next life? Liamo asked calmly, as if this question wasn't important, and he didn't need an answer. Of course not. What are those things? Qin Jianmei asked curiously. All right, since you don't know, I'll show you. Liamo clapped his hands 3 times, and a masked man walked up from behind and handed a tray to Liamo. The tray was covered with a piece of black gauze, which Liamo peeled off, revealing what was underneath. There were 2 statues of Buddhas. More accurately, one was a bodhisattva, and the other was a Buddha. However, upon closer inspection, these statues were somewhat different from the bodhisattvas and Buddhas that most people worshipped. Most bodhisattvas and Buddhas were benevolent, but upon closer inspection, these 2 statues were ferocious. Even though they were smiling, they gave off an inexplicably sinister aura. Yun Ruoyan looked at the 2 statues on the tray. She recognized them. They were the 2 statues that Qin Jianmei had consecrated, and Liamo had managed to get his hands on them. When Qin Jianmei saw the 2 statues that she had worshipped day and night for more than a decade in Liamo's hands, she almost lost her balance, and her face turned even paler than before. Chapter 301. I'm not too familiar with the shamans of the Yu Kingdom, but I happen to know that the Bodhisattva of present life and the Buddha of future life are extremely important to the shamans. Sometimes, they're even more important than their own lives. Liamo lightly brushed his hand over the 2 statues, imbuing his hand with spiritual energy. As soon as Liamo's spiritual energy came into contact with the 2 statues, the sinister smiles on the statues' faces suddenly turned fearful, as if the 2 inanimate objects had suddenly gained sentience and emotions. Yun Ruoyan's gaze had been on Qin Jianmei the entire time, so she hadn't noticed the changes in the statues at first. However, she noticed that Qin Jinmei's gaze had suddenly become incomparably nervous. Yun Ruoyan followed Qin Jinmei's gaze and looked at the two statues beneath Li Mo's hands. Under the pressure of Li Mo's spiritual energy, the two statues' faces began to change more and more visibly, their slitted eyes growing more sinister. Suddenly, there was a crack. Li Mo's spiritual energy had caused a thin crack to appear on the belly of the Buddha of future life. Stop! Qin Jianmei, who had been standing stiffly on the first floor, finally shouted angrily, "These two statues belong to me. You took them without permission, and you're no different from thieves. Madam, if you're not a shaman, why do you have the Bodhisattva of present life and the Buddha of future life?" Li Mo asked. Moreover, these two statues already possess a considerable amount of spiritual energy. They must be the result of worshipping them day and night. If you're not a shaman, why have you worshipped them for more than 10 years? Madam Qin, there's no need to quibble. You're a shaman. Faced with Li Mo's question, Qin Jianmei fell silent for a long while before she suddenly laughed. Since you're so certain that I'm a shaman, there's no need for me to deny it. So what if I'm indeed a descendant of the Yu Kingdom's shaman? If you admit that you're a descendant of the shaman tribe, then you must know about the mother-child venom. Li Mo's tone suddenly turned serious, not indifferent. The mother-child venom is a secret poison unique to the shaman tribe. Just like these two statues, it's unique to the shaman tribe. 15 years ago, you were the one who poisoned a woman with the mother and child parasite unique to the wizard tribe. You're talking nonsense. Qin Jianmei quibbled again. I admit that I'm a member of the Wu tribe, and I also admit that I know about the mother-child goo poison, but why are you accusing me of harming people? I have never harmed anyone. I believe in Buddha day and night. I worship Buddha. Is that considered harming people? Seeing that she wasn't going to let go, Li Mo slapped the air 3 more times. This time, a black-clothed man walked out from the side with a middle-aged man in tow. They came to the hall on the first floor and stood together with Qin Jianmei. Madam Qin, do you recognize him? Li Mo asked. Qin Jianmei turned to look at the middle-aged man and said, I don't know him. The middle-aged man glanced at Qin Jianmei before shaking his head at Li Mo. Li Mo gestured to the black-clothed man beside the middle-aged man, who immediately took out a black cloth and covered the middle-aged man's eyes. Physician Singh, let's see if we can still recognize her, Li Mo said. When Physician Singh heard Li Mo's words, he inched closer to Qin Jianmei and sniffed carefully. After 2 sniffs, he yelled, It's her, it's her. She's the woman who made me poison the Yun family's young mistress 13 years ago. In a side room on the first floor of the tea house, Yun Lan stood up from his seat. His eyes narrowed in the shadows, and his hands clenched involuntarily by his sides. What nonsense are you spouting? Perhaps having forgotten what Physician Singh looked like, Qin Jianmei had initially been confused as to who he was. But when Physician Singh mentioned what had happened 13 years ago, Qin Jianmei immediately recognized him. However, even if she recognized him, she would never admit it. I don't know you at all. What do you mean by the woman who poisoned me 13 years ago? Qin Jianmei retorted stubbornly. Don't quibble. Physician Singh grew agitated. This woman had used him to harm others, causing him to carry a psychological burden for more than 10 years. Now that he had finally met the culprit, how could he not be agitated and indignant? If not for the black-clad men holding Physician Singh back, Physician Singh would have pounced on Qin Jianmei and beaten her up. Physician Singh excitedly recounted what had happened 13 years ago in front of everyone. He then pointed at Qin Jianmei and said, Although you were wearing a veil that covered your entire body, there's no mistaking the strange fragrance on your body. I can guarantee with my life that you were the one who used me to poison the Yun family's young mistress. At this time, Qin Jianmei finally felt a little flustered, but she still tried her best to argue. In this world, there are many people who look the same, not to mention the smell of the body. You must be mistaken. 13 years ago, I hadn't even married into the Yun family yet, so how could I have poisoned the Yun family's young mistress? At first, I was also suspicious of your motives, Liemo began. But when I found out that you were acquainted with Master Yun before you married into the Yun family, I had a guess. You seem like someone who doesn't fight for anything, but deep down, you're a very greedy person. You're deeply in love with old Master Yun, but he married Lin Yuemei, whom he likes, and even married Madaman, whom he's engaged to but doesn't like. However, he refused to take you as his wife, so you held a grudge against him. You used your position as a physician in the Yun family to poison Lin Yuemei. Preposterous. These are just your guesses. You don't have any evidence to back them up. Qin Jianmei sneered. As if he hadn't heard Qin Jianmei, Liemo continued, perhaps you were afraid of exposing yourself, or perhaps you were simply too vicious to want Lin Yuemei to die so easily. In any case, you didn't poison Lin Yuemei to death directly. Instead, you poisoned her with a slow-acting parasite, allowing it to remain dormant in her body for 2 years. During these 2 years, the parasite transformed into a fetal poison that was transmitted directly from Lin Yuemei's body to her daughter. 2 years later, the parasite in Lin Yuemei's body erupted, and her life was hanging by a thread. Coincidentally, Physician Xing knew the antidote, and you used him to poison Lin Yuemei's medicine, killing her. As Liemo spoke, although Qin Jianmei tried her best to maintain her composure, the guilt in her heart was obvious to anyone with a discerning eye. That's only your side of the story. Not only is it baseless, but it's also absurd. Qin Jianmei's facial muscles were beginning to stiffen, but she still gritted her teeth. It doesn't matter whether it's my side of the story or not. What's important is whether you've done what I'm saying. Liemo began. People often say that it's not that vengeance isn't forthcoming, but that the time isn't right. Not only did you poison Lin Yuemei out of jealousy 10 years ago, but now, you've even poisoned Madame Yun's second madam's medicine, causing her to go insane. You think that no one will find out what you've done, but we, the black-white twin killers, are here to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. I don't understand a single word you're saying. Qin Jianmei laughed strangely. But if you want to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens, we'll have to see if you're capable of doing so. Liemo smiled. Do you think Master Yun would believe you if he were to find out what you've done? Would he join us in enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Qin Jianmei's expression immediately changed. You madman, don't even think about ruining my plans of so many years. Just as Qin Jianmei finished speaking, the 2 statues on the tray in the hands of the black-clothed man suddenly began to change. Above the head of the Buddha of the future life, a black aura suddenly emerged. The aura morphed into a strange hand that grabbed the neck of the guard holding the tray. The guard didn't even have a chance to struggle before his throat was crushed and he slumped to the ground. When Yun Ruoyan saw this, she wanted to pick up the 2 statues that had fallen to the ground, but Liemo reacted quickly and grabbed her. That's demonic energy. Don't touch it. Liemo pulled Yun Ruoyan behind his back. The 2 of them didn't move forward. Instead, they stared intently at what Liemo called demonic energy. The demonic energy, which could condense into a physical form, continued to seep out from the head of the Buddha, and more demonic energy gradually enveloped the statue of Guanyin by its side. Then, as if sensing the demonic energy, the statue's eyes turned red and widened in an instant, causing Yun Ruoyan, who was staring at it, to stare at it in shock. The 2 benevolent Buddhas had transformed into 2 demonic beings in this short period of time. Yun Ruoyan saw a red aura begin to seep out from the statue's widened eyes. Needless to say, that red aura was demonic energy. The demonic energy, red and black, didn't mix. Instead, they each occupied one half of the statue, but they were tightly connected. Not only were they connected, but they were also beginning to take shape. Not good, they're going to take human form, Liemo murmured. Ah! At this moment, a scream came from downstairs. Yun Ruoyan and Liemo turned to see Physician Singh, who was under Mo Wei's control. His eyes were wide open, his nose and mouth were bleeding, and 3 silver needles had been inserted into his forehead. Qin Jianmei, how dare you silence him? Yun Ruoyan roared at Qin Jianmei. Humph. Not only am I going to kill him, but I'm also going to kill everyone here. As Qin Jianmei spoke, she waved her hand towards Mo Wei, who was not far away from her. 3 silver needles shot towards him. Liemo pointed a finger at the air, and a white beam of spiritual energy shot toward the needles. Although the silver needles were fast, Liemo's spiritual energy was even faster. The spiritual energy knocked the needles out of the way, and the guard raised his sword and slashed at Lin Yuemei. You can't kill her. Yun Ruoyan cried out. Chapter 302. Stop. Liemo commanded. If Qin Jianmei were to die so easily, she wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. After all, Yun Ruoyan still had many questions to ask her about her mother, Lin Yuemei. As the two of them shouted, Mo Wei's saber stopped above Qin Jianmei's head. And Qin Jianmei also saw this opportunity to escape. She swung her hand towards Mo Wei's chest. This time, Mo Wei was prepared. He used the knife in front of his body to block 2 of the silver needles. However, the third one still hit his arm. Mo Wei immediately felt his arm go numb. Clearly, the needles had been dipped in poison. Stand down. Liemo shouted at Mo Wei, who clutched his injured arm and retreated from the room. By this time, the black and red demonic energies released by the Buddha and the Bodhisattva of this world had morphed into a tall, humanoid creature that was half red and half black. This creature was more than 3 meters tall, and its 2 thick arms and 2 thick legs had already taken on a physical form. While walking and turning around, the humanoid monster's legs and arms came into contact with the wooden stairs in the tea house and easily shattered them. The lethality of the monster was enormous. Your Highness. By this time, Su Nan had changed back into his Mo Wei attire and appeared by Liemo's side, accompanied by 5 other Mo Wei. They stood in front of Liemo and Yun Ruoyan, forming a human wall. It's a demonic puppet. Liemo's expression was grave. Protect Yen, Yes, Your Highness. Su Nan took a step back and stood by Yun Ruoyan's side. Demonic puppet. Yun Ruoyan repeated doubtfully. This was the first time she had heard of such a thing. What's a demonic puppet? When I was young, my mother told me that demonic puppets were extremely lethal weapons that existed in a different world. This thing in front of me is very similar to what my mother told me, Liemo explained. But this is the first time I've seen a real demonic puppet. Bodhisattva demon, listen to my command. At this moment, Qin Jianmei, who was standing downstairs, loudly ordered the half-red, half-black humanoid puppet. A stick of incense had been lit in her hand, and the strange fragrance quickly spread throughout the entire space. The gigantic humanoid was originally just a human shape, with no holes on its body. However, as the strange fragrance permeated the air, 2 holes gradually appeared on the round ball that could barely be called a head, roughly where the nose should be. The smoke from the incense in Qin Jianmei's hand turned into 2 puffs of white smoke that drifted into the 2 holes. After the demon chi puppet was hit by the sandalwood incense, a hole that could barely be called a mouth appeared on its mouth. It let out a low and unpleasant sound as a response to Qin Jianmei. Then, it swung its 2 large fists at Liemo and Yun Ruoyan, bringing with it a strong gust of wind. Yun Ruoyan, Liemo, and a few of the hidden guards didn't take the blow head-on. Instead, they all leaped away, dodging the puppet's attack. With a loud crack, the puppet's giant fists smashed a large hole in the second-floor floorboards. Yunruoyan, Liemo, and the others leaped to the first floor, the hidden guards forming a protective wall around the two of them. With a bang, the humanoid puppet also jumped into the hall on the first floor. Two pits immediately appeared where its feet landed, and the entire wooden tea-house shook as a result. This tea-house was originally an abandoned building. Because it was the middle of winter, almost no one would visit the Minghuang Mountain during this time of year. Even if the tea-house collapsed, there was no need to worry that it would crush anyone else. Bodhisattva Demon. At some point, Qin Jianmei had appeared by the demonic puppet's side. The puppet, known as the Bodhisattva, crouched down in front of Qin Jianmei. Qin Jianmei stepped on its palm, then sat down on its shoulder. Immediately after, Qin Jianmei took out a stick of sandalwood and lit it up. After the demonic qi puppet absorbed another stick of sandalwood, its body grew a lot taller, almost reaching the roof of the tea house. At the same time, Yun Ma Xiao, who was sitting in the corner of the first floor, was exceptionally anxious. He had long since known that the black-white twin demons were Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan in disguise. As he watched the battle unfold outside, he wanted to rush over to help. Stop! Yun Lan stopped his brother. This is a demonic puppet, and you're no match for it. Let's see what the black-white twin demons and these men in black are capable of. Back in the hall, Yun Ruoyan noticed that the puppet had grown even larger. We can't let it eat any more sandalwood, or it'll grow bigger and bigger. All of you, go. By Yun Ruoyan's side, Su Nan ordered the 5 guards in front of him. As soon as they received the order, they rushed toward the demonic qi puppet. Among them, 3 of them were in the midst of sprinting. Sword light rose from beneath their feet as they soared into the sky. 5 of the ink guards arrived in front of the puppet at the same time, and simultaneously launched an attack against it. The 2 ink guards on the ground brandished the broadswords in their hands and chopped down at the 2 legs of the puppet. The 2 legs that seemed to be solid were instantly turned into nothingness under the chopping of the broadswords, and were unable to withstand any force at all. The 2 guards' swords seemed to have struck thin air, and with a clang, the 2 swords collided. Before the 2 ink guards could even react, one of the puppet's legs had already lifted up, and with an abrupt spinning kick, the 2 ink guards were sent flying. The 3 guards flying in the air didn't gain the upper hand either. They attacked the puppets as if they were attacking the air. However, the attacks of the puppets were solid and didn't slow them down at all. Very quickly, the 3 guards, who were as strong as blade masters, began to lose their footing. With a muffled cry, one of the guards fell from the puppet's sword, Qin Jianmei, who had shot a silver needle at him from the puppet's shoulder. The other guard caught the fallen guard and retreated, leaving only a single guard to deal with the puppet. Your Highness, if we can't touch that woman, I'm afraid we'll have no chance of victory. Su Nan couldn't help but worry when he saw his brother injured. Yen, you stay here and wait. Su Nan, protect her. Liemo turned to Yun Ruoyan and Su Nan. A green sword aura appeared beneath his feet, and he quickly flew toward the puppet. Just then, the guard who had been knocked back by the puppet's fist was sent flying. Liemo reached out to catch him, then let him retreat. Madam Qin, are you trying to fall into the demonic path? Liemo asked coldly. Demonic cultivation has disappeared from the Qinyuan continent for 1,000 years. I didn't expect to see it on you today. Humph. We shamans are descendants of the demons from 1,000 years ago, Qin Jianmei replied. But you humans didn't accept us, so we had no choice but to hide in the mountains and become shamans. As it turned out, the shamans in the Yu Kingdom were descendants of the demons that had been banished from the Qinyuan continent 1,000 years ago. However, after 1,000 years, the shamans had split into 2 factions. One was the conservative faction, which advocated continuing to live in the mountains. The other was the radical faction, which advocated returning to the human world and even reviving the demon race. As the conflict between the two factions grew more and more intense, a battle finally broke out. Many people died in the battle. Some of the survivors continued to stay in the deep mountains, while others returned to the human world. Qin Jianmei was one of the shamans who had returned to the human world. Because shamans were skilled in medicine, most of them lived as traveling physicians. This was passed down from generation to generation. In order to better integrate into the lives of ordinary people, many of the shamans deliberately forgot their bloodline ancestors as they passed down their legacy. Physician Tseng was likely a descendant of the shamans, but his ancestors hadn't revealed their true identities when they passed on their inheritance. Our Qin family has always carried on the bloodline of the shamans. No, more accurately, it's the bloodline of the demons, Qin Jianmei explained. We already have powerful demonic energy, but it's been sealed away. However, we still have a way to obtain demonic energy, and that's to refine a demonic puppet. However, in order to refine a true demonic chi puppet, one would need to sacrifice the heart of a person with the bloodline of the demon clan. Furthermore, one would need to continuously use their own blood to refine sandalwood incense for worship day and night. Thus, in the records of the demon clan, there was no record of a person who had truly refined a demonic chi puppet. Ever since she was young, Qin Jianmei had been fascinated by Father Qin's teachings, but because she didn't have a heart, she hadn't been able to practice it. 15 years ago, however, Qin Jianmei's father had suddenly died, and Qin Jianmei had dug out his heart with her own hands to refine a demonic puppet. In 81 days, my bodhisattva demon will be complete. But you've ruined my plans at this time. Qin Jianmei snarled at Liamo, but at this stage, it's more than enough to deal with mortals like you. Bodhisattva demon, kill this cowardly bastard. Qin Jianmei commanded. The demonic puppet opened its mouth and let out another horrendous sound. Then, its fists flew toward Liamo like a whirlwind, the sound of the wind ringing in Yun Ruoyan's ears. Yun Ruoyan stared nervously at Liamo, the scarlet pupil spiritual sword in her hand. Unfortunately, she still didn't know how to ride a sword, or she would have already charged forward to fight alongside Liamo. Mistress, don't worry too much. Qiuqiu's voice suddenly rang out in Yun Ruoyan's mind. Even if Liamo can't subdue this demonic puppet, he should be able to escape unscathed. Just as Qiuqiu had said, Liamo was incredibly fast. The puppet's fists were sharp and fast, but they couldn't even touch a corner of Liamo's robe. Bodhisattva demon, kill him. Qin Jianmei was clearly panicking. At her urging, the demonic puppet suddenly opened its slender mouth and spat out a mouthful of black gas toward Liamo. Chapter 303. The black mist that the puppet spat out began to morph into 7 or 8 black demonic hands that pounced toward Liamo. Liamo, be careful. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but call out when she raised her head. Even though Qiuqiu had told Yun Ruoyan that Liamo would be able to deal with it, no one present had ever seen or heard of this demonic chi puppet and the techniques it was capable of. As a result, everyone began to grow nervous. Unknowingly, Yun Ruoyan had already grasped the crimson eye in her hand. Unfortunately, she couldn't fly on her sword yet. At that moment, the 7 or 8 demonic hands were attacking Liamo from different directions, slashing, slapping, or grabbing. However, Liamo was dressed in a white robe and wore a green, fanged mask. His movements were swift and nimble, and the 7 or 8 demonic hands couldn't even touch the hem of his robe. Father. Within the small room, Yun Maxiao stood by a small window and looked at the battle outside. Somewhat impatient, he turned to Yun Lan. Let's go out and help. Help. Yun Lan's face was expressionless. His eyes were hidden in the shadows, making it impossible to see his emotions. He coldly asked, who do you want to help? Help. Yun Maxiao opened his mouth, but the words he was about to say were stuck in his throat. He was about to say, of course, that they were going to help Ruoyan and the Slaughtering King, but he suddenly realized that Yunlan didn't know that Yun Ruoyan and Liemo were actually the black-white twin demons. Yunlan glanced at his father coolly. It's not clear whether the black-white twin demons are friend or foe, so we can't help them blindly. Yunlan's heart sank. Qin Jianmei's actions had indeed surprised and angered Yunlan, but she was still a member of the Yun family. Even if she wanted to kill her, she should have done so behind closed doors, rather than reveal the family's dirty linen in front of outsiders. As for the black-white twin demons, where had they come from on the Qinyuan continent? He'd first heard of them from the Yuelu villa. It was said that the two of them had wreaked havoc at the villa and rescued a large number of beastkin slaves. But apart from dealing with the Yuelu villa, the two of them rarely appeared anywhere else, and it had been a long time since they'd last appeared. What Yunlan couldn't figure out was why these two people had suddenly appeared. Why did he kidnap his daughter and lure Qin Jianmei out? If these two people had enmity with Qin Jianmei, why didn't they kill her? Could it be that they took such a roundabout way just to let him watch a good show? It was definitely not that simple, so what was their motive for doing this? What was his purpose? Yunlan couldn't figure all of this out. Things that couldn't be seen clearly and couldn't be guessed were all dangerous. Yunlan looked in front of him and his deep eyes narrowed slightly. He saw that the white-robed man's movement technique was elegant and his cultivation was high, but he could not determine his identity. As for the woman shrouded in a black cloak, she did not speak or move, so Yunlan could not determine her identity. But the strange thing was that both of them gave Yunlan an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Yunlan thought to himself, if these two people are really people I know, then their disguising skills are indeed top-notch. Father, this demonic chi puppet is something that has never been seen before on the Qinyuan continent. This place is very close to the capital, and if we don't destroy it, it'll definitely endanger the safety of the capital. Yun Maxiao thought of a good reason. Father, the most important thing right now isn't to help anyone, but to destroy that monster. Yunlan furrowed his eyebrows. Qin Jianmei was still feeding sandalwood incense to the devil chi puppet, and its body was also slowly growing bigger. This was indeed a big problem. However, Yunlan's gaze fell on Qin Jianmei. Based on his understanding of her, she probably wouldn't make a big deal out of this. She was only acting crazily to protect her own secret. If he waited until the puppet had destroyed the black-white double fiends, or until both sides were heavily injured, then he would appear. Father. Seeing that Yunlan didn't react, Yun Maxiao urged anxiously. Although this puppet hasn't reached its peak, it's not something we can easily destroy, Yunlan said. Even with the help of the people outside, we still won't be a match for it. Then what should we do? Yun Maxiao's expression was anxious. Let's wait and see. Just then, there was a sudden rumble. The puppet had struck the roof of the tea house, smashing a large hole in it. The puppet's shoulder was stuck in the roof, and it stretched out its hand to push against the roof, tearing it apart. Seeing that the puppet would soon alert the people in the capital, Liemo no longer simply dodged. Instead, he began to attack. He struck out with both hands, a fireball in one hand and an icicle in the other. Ice and fire elemental energy burst forth simultaneously. It's a dual cultivator of ice and fire. Qin Jianmei and Yunlan were shocked, especially Yunlan. He had only ever seen dual cultivators in the alternate world. Those with monstrous cultivation could not only use two elemental energies at the same time, but even 3 or 4. There were even some who could cultivate 5 elements at the same time. But on the Qinyuan continent, there was no such thing. Could it be that the black-white double fiends weren't from the Qinyuan continent? The black demonic hands weren't affected by Limo's attacks, but Limo's attacks were quite damaging. After a few rounds of attacks, only 2 or 3 of the 8 demonic hands remained. Bodhisattva, what are you waiting for? Kill him. Qin Jianmei urged the puppet, which spat out another mouthful of red gas at Li Mo. The red gas also turned into 7 or 8 demon hands in midair. These red demon hands had sharp claws and looked even more terrifying and horrifying than the black demon hands. Bodhisattva, are you still not full? Again. Qin Jianmei continued to urge the puppet on. At the same time, she took out a stick of sandalwood incense made from her own blood essence and lit it. The puppet inhaled another stick of incense, then spat out 2 mouthfuls of red and black smoke at Li Mo. 2 streams of mist, one black and one red, transformed into 2 demonic claws that lunged at Li Mo. In the blink of an eye, Li Mo was completely surrounded by the black and red demonic claws. Qin Jianmei, don't you want your daughter's life anymore? Yun Ruoyan yelled at Qin Jianmei anxiously. Qin Jianmei hesitated for a moment before waving a hand at the demonic hand surrounding Li Mo. As she did so, the demonic hands dispersed, revealing Li Mo once more. Li Mo stood on top of the red sword aura, dressed in white and wearing a mask. His hair was neatly combed behind his head, and only then did Yun Ruoyan relax. Hand over my daughter right now, and I'll consider giving you a painless death. Qin Jianmei shouted at Li Mo. Qin Jianmei's entire body was shrouded in demonic energy, and all that remained of her former gentleness was gone. Madam Qin, your daughter has a demonic bloodline in her veins. Do you want her to become a second you? Li Mo asked coldly. My daughter, like me, has a demonic bloodline in her veins. Qin Jianmei suddenly sighed again, and her fierce expression seemed to carry a trace of sadness. She said, You fell in love with the crown prince, but the crown prince has never put her in his eyes. She's fallen in love with someone she can't reach. If she can't become strong enough, she'll be doomed to a life of misery. But there's no need for that now. When Qin Jianmei said this, the miserable expression on her face was swept away. Instead, she revealed an arrogant smile. I've spent more than a decade refining a demonic bodhisattva. Although I haven't perfected it yet, it's more than enough to deal with you mortals. Once I'm done with you, I'll continue refining it for a few more years, and once it's perfected, I'll be able to roam the abyss as I please. When that time comes, I'll gather my tribesmen and establish a kingdom that belongs to us shamans. When that time comes, we'll be able to look down on the abyss and obtain everything we want. Qin Jianmei tilted her head back and laughed heartily. Her words truly shocked everyone present. Li Mo had thought that she was simply too deeply in love with Yunlan, and that her actions toward Lin Yuemei and Madaman were the result of her hatred. What Li Mo hadn't expected, however, was that she had such wild ambitions. Originally, both Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan had held back, hoping to keep Qin Jianmei alive so that they could interrogate her about Lin Yuemei. Now, however, it seemed that she had to be killed, or the Qinyuan continent would be doomed. Hidden in the shadows, Yunlan's eyes widened in shock at Qin Jianmei's words. As he looked at Qin Yuemei, perched on the demonic puppet's shoulder, Yunlan couldn't help but think back to the first time he'd met her. He thought that he'd long since forgotten about her, but the scene of their first meeting suddenly flashed through his mind, as clear as day. It was a rainy afternoon, and Yunlan was strolling alone on the streets when a young girl with an umbrella suddenly ran toward him. Because her line of sight was blocked by the umbrella, and because she was running in such a hurry, she bumped into Yunlan. The young girl stumbled and almost fell. Fortunately, Yunlan's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick. He immediately grabbed the young girl's waist and pulled her into his arms. An elegant and pure young girl's face, like a newly bloomed hibiscus, quietly floated in front of Yunlan. When the girl saw Yunlan, her face immediately turned red, and her eyes were as panicked as a fawn's. So cute, so clean. But after more than a decade of refinement, that beautiful, untainted, cute, and clean face of hers had become so malevolent that Yunlan couldn't help but be astonished. Chapter 304. If he hadn't met Lin Yuemei, Yunlan would have followed his family's arrangements and married Madame before taking Qin Jianmei as his concubine. 2 months after meeting Qin Jianmei, however, Yunlan met Lin Yuemei at a flower viewing party. When Lin Yuemei walked leisurely out of the peach blossom forest, Yunlan finally understood what it meant to be 10,000 years in a single glance. Ever since then, he had been deeply in love with Lin Yuemei. Even when he found out that Lin Yuemei already belonged to someone else, Yunlan couldn't stop his unrequited love for her. At the time, Lin Yuemei was in love with her good friend, Long Yin. When the two of them met for a stroll, she often brought him along. Yunlan could only watch helplessly as his beloved girl got together with another man, but he could do nothing about it. Just as Yunlan thought that he would never be able to be with the girl he loved, Long Yin suddenly disappeared. In order to make Lin Yuemei give up on Long Yin, the Lin family began to arrange a marriage for her. Just as Lin Yuemei was in despair, Yunlan appeared like a savior, showing his concern for her in every possible way. At first, Lin Yuemei wasn't willing to marry him. Eventually, however, Yunlan proposed to marry her and promised that he wouldn't touch her for the next 2 years. If Long Yin returned within 2 years, he would divorce her to help the two of them. At the time, Lin Yuemei was being pressured by her family. Moved by Yunlan's sincerity, she finally agreed to marry Yunlan. Yunlan had even threatened to break off the engagement, and the Yun family had finally agreed to take Lin Yuemei as his official wife. However, the condition was that he had to marry Madame as well. In the end, Yunlan got what he wanted, marrying his beloved Lin Yuemei. But what he didn't know was that on the night of his wedding, a young girl had been standing in a corner of the Yun estate, tears streaming down her cheeks. Yunlan had originally planned on watching Madame Qin and Liemo fight, but after hearing Qin Jinmei's ambitious words, a murderous glint flashed across his eyes. "It'll be easy for me to have your daughter." Liemo turned to Qin Jinmei. "Put away this puppet right now, or you won't be able to see your daughter for the rest of your life." How arrogant! Qin Jianmei was so angry that she laughed and said, "You use my most precious person to threaten me, I can also use your most precious thing to threaten you." As soon as Qin Jianmei finished speaking, she pointed in Yun Ruoyan's direction. The demonic puppet immediately turned its head toward Yun Ruoyan and spat out 2 mouthfuls of demonic energy, one black and one red. The 2 waves of demonic energy intertwined in midair, then morphed into a dozen demonic hands that reached for Yun Ruoyan's head. "Protect Miss Yun." Under Su Nan's command, the 5 ink guards, including the injured ones, surrounded Yun Ruoyan and protected her tightly. Liemo frowned. On the Qinyuan continent, Yun Ruoyan's 8th rank cultivation was considered high. But against a demonic puppet that didn't belong to the Qinyuan continent, Yun Ruoyan was still in great danger. Liemo wanted to turn around to save Yun Ruoyan, but Qin Jianmei waved her hand, and the demonic hands that had retreated to the side immediately surrounded Liemo again, attacking him ferociously. Su Nan and the other ink guards were all stronger than Yun Ruoyan, but the demonic hands were too strange and numerous. Soon, Su Nan and the rest of the ink guards found themselves at a disadvantage. 2 of the MO guards had their arms and legs grabbed by a few demonic hands. They were lifted up and sent flying. One of the demonic hands grabbed Su Nan's wrist, and the other tried to snatch away his sword. Yun Ruoyan shouted and raised the scarlet eye sword in her hand. When Su Nan and the others fought against the demonic hands, they had to infuse spiritual energy into their weapons in order to deal as little damage as possible. But when Yun Ruoyan's scarlet eye sword struck the demonic hands, a creaking sound rang out. "Miss Yun, your sword can destroy demonic energy," Su Nan exclaimed. "Move aside and let me do it," Yun Ruoyan replied. With the scarlet eye sword in hand, Yun Ruoyan blocked the rest of the ink guards behind her and charged out of the demonic hands as if she were chopping vegetables. By the time Yun Ruoyan had mostly destroyed the demonic hands around her, she saw that Liemo had once again been surrounded by a horde of demonic hands. Su Nan, take care of yourselves. Yun Ruoyan gritted her teeth and charged at the demonic puppet, sword in hand. You're courting death. Qin Jianmei laughed coldly as she directed the demonic puppet to swing its massive fist at Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan leaped up and dodged the attack. At the same time, she swung her sword at the puppet's giant hand. The scarlet eye sword struck the puppet's hand like a hot iron on a piece of roasted meat. Clearly feeling the pain, the demonic puppet swung its arm and flung Yun Ruoyan away. Yun Ruoyan landed lightly on the ground and faced off against the puppet with the scarlet eye sword in hand. This time, the puppet seemed to be interested. Without Qin Jianmei's command, it focused its attention on Yun Ruoyan. After losing the puppet's attention, the attacks of the demonic hand surrounding Mo weakened. He looked down and saw Yun Ruoyan facing off against the golem. He couldn't help calling out, "Fool, go back. You're no match for it." But it was too late. The puppet suddenly opened its mouth twice as wide as before and spat out two streams of demonic energy, one red and one black. The black and red demonic energy transformed into four black and red demonic hands that grabbed at Yun Ruoyan's head. Yun Ruoyan swung her sword and chopped off one of the hands, but the other three seized the opportunity to attack her. Yun Ruoyan's neck, wrist, and one ankle were all grabbed. With a loud crack, her wrist was broken. The scarlet eye sword fell to the ground, and Yun Ruoyan's entire body was lifted into the air. "Surrender now, or I'll kill her." Qin Jianmei threatened Mo had no choice but to give up all resistance and allow himself to be captured by the demonic hands. When Yun Maxiao saw that Yun Ruoyan and Mo had been captured, he couldn't hold himself back any longer. "Father, I can't wait any longer." He kicked open the door to the cottage, and a yellow sword aura appeared beneath his feet as he flew toward Yun Ruoyan. When Qin Jianmei turned around and saw her father, she paused for a moment before smiling. "You've come at the right time. Once you're dead, Ruoyu will have one less opponent in the Yun family." Yun Maxiao unsheathed the sword by his waist and slashed at the demonic hands around Yun Ruoyan's neck. Yun Ruoyan struggled and yelled, "Behind you." When Yun Maxiao turned around, he saw a red sword made of demonic energy stabbing towards his chest. Yun Maxiao thought he was dead for sure, but when the red demonic chi sword was inches away from his chest, it suddenly vanished into thin air. Not only that, but the demonic hand that was holding Yun Ruoyan and Mo also disappeared. Yun Maxiao caught Yun Ruoyan and landed on the ground with Mo. On the other side, Qin Jianmei looked down at the tip of the sword that had pierced through her heart and into her body. Her eyes widened. She turned around in disbelief, only to see Yun Lan's cold, icy face. "Jianmei, how did you end up like this?" Yun Lan's voice was cold, filled with disappointment and heartlessness. "How did I end up like this?" Qin Jianmei looked at Yun Lan and suddenly laughed. "How did I end up like this?" Qin Jianmei repeated these words as she felt the cold blade of the sword slowly graze her heart. Then, abruptly, it pulled away. As the light faded away, darkness enveloped her. Qin Jianmei felt that she had fallen into a pitch-black space that was silent and devoid of light. Hit her, hit her. She's a demon." Suddenly, a child's voice rang out, and an image slowly unfolded. In the image, a group of children surrounded a little girl and berated her. "She's from the shamanic tribe, and shamanic tribesmen are all demons. We won't play with her, we'll ignore her." The children began to leave, leaving the little girl crying quietly against the wall. Just as the little girl was about to cry, a middle-aged man appeared in front of her. When the little girl raised her head and saw the middle-aged man, large droplets of tears flowed down her cheeks. "Daddy, we're not demons. Daddy, go tell them that I'm not a demon." However, the middle-aged man did not console the little girl. The man reached out and slapped the little girl's face. "How many times have I told you? Don't tell anyone that we're from the shamanic tribe. Why did you still say it? Now, we're going to move again. We're going to be homeless again. The man roughly pulled the little girl up from the ground and dragged her all the way away. The image slowly disappeared, and another image unfolded. It was a small bridge on the surface of a lake. On the bridge stood a handsome youth and a beautiful girl. Jianmei, you like me, don't you? The youth asked the girl. I. The girl lowered her head under the youth's gaze. You definitely like me. The youth did not wait for the girl to finish before asking, otherwise, why would you blush the moment you see me? Do you blush when you see other men? I don't. The girl continued to lower her head, not looking at her plain dress. You don't what? The boy smiled and pressed. You don't like me, or you don't blush. I don't. The girl's ears were red as she nervously pinched the hem of her dress. However, the youth smiled as he held her hand and said, Jianmei, if you like me, how about I marry you? However, with your status, I'm afraid you can only be a concubine if you marry me. Are you willing? Chapter 305. The girl blushed and pursed her lips. The word yes was stuck between her teeth, but she couldn't say it. However, she kept repeating in her heart, I do. Stop dreaming. Just as the previous image disappeared, a man's angry voice rang out. An old man appeared in the new image. He pointed at the girl and scolded, Young Master Yun is getting married today, and he's even marrying a wife and a concubine. He's long forgotten about you, so stop dreaming. No, he said he would marry me, he said it. The girl lay on the wooden table and said painfully. What is his identity, and what is your identity? Don't be silly and stay at home obediently. Don't go to the Yun family and embarrass me. After the old man finished speaking, he walked towards the door with a lock in his hand. The girl looked at the old man's back and suddenly stood up. Father, please don't lock me up at home. The girl shouted as she rushed towards the door. The old man stopped the girl and wanted to push her back into the room. The girl resisted with all her might and pushed the old man to the side. Then she ran out the door. The old man stumbled and hit his head on the wall behind the door. The girl ran out of the house and ran towards the Yun manor. By the time she reached the door, it was already nightfall. The girl ran to the door but was stopped by the doorman. She begged the doorman to let her in to see young Master Yun, but the doorman just sneered at her. Our young master is very busy marrying a wife and a concubine. Miss Chin, don't come anymore. Young master won't see you even if you come, and master and madam won't be happy to see you. Don't ask for trouble, okay? The girl couldn't enter the door, and the doorman didn't let her stand at the door. She could only stand in the corner and look at the Yun manor that was so close yet so far away. The Yun manor was decorated with lanterns and streamers. The bright red lanterns illuminated the Yun manor like it was in a sea of fire. Only the girl felt like she had fallen into an ice cellar. The girl sat outside the residence of Yun for the whole night. When she returned home the next day, she found her father dead in the corner of the wall behind the door. His head had been smashed open and blood was flowing everywhere. The young girl recalled that she was the one who killed her father. Her heart was already like dead ashes, and now she didn't want to live anymore. She pulled out the dagger from the old man's waist and wanted to end her life on the spot. But just as she pulled out the dagger, she suddenly saw a corner of a black book peeking out from the old man's robes. She reached out and picked up the book. What was recorded in the book was the sacrificial refining technique that he had always been curious about since he was young, but his father had never mentioned it. The girl put down the knife in her hand and began to carefully read the contents of the book. The deathly gray in her eyes gradually reignited, and the fire in her eyes burned more and more fiercely. In the end, there was even the color of blood. When the girl finished the last page of the book, she slowly put down the book and looked at her father, who had long since disappeared. This was the father who had raised her, but who had never shown her even the slightest bit of warmth. The girl bit the corner of her lips until it bled. A vicious look appeared in her eyes. She picked up the dagger by her side and slowly raised it. She closed her eyes and stabbed the dagger into the old man's chest. Ah! Qin Jianmei covered her eyes. Madam Qin, are you still not going to give up? Li Mo's voice rang out in Madam Qin's ears. In order to refine a demonic puppet, you wouldn't even spare your own father's heart. You deserve to die. I. Qin Jianmei covered her eyes, her body trembling. Li Mo, is this enough to destroy this demonic puppet? Yun Ruoyan asked softly. At that moment, Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan were floating in midair on their swords. Both of them pointed their swords at the demonic puppet's head, and threads of spiritual energy flowed from their fingers into it. Yun Maxiao, Yun Lan, and a few of the Mo guards were standing on the ground, watching the scene unfold. Yun Lan stood with his hands behind his back. Beside him lay Qin Jianmei, who had been killed by his sword. Mother told me that demonic puppets are formed from the spiritual energy of the person who refined them, Li Mo explained to Yun Ruoyan. Li Mo explained to Yun Ruoyan that different people's psychokinesis was different in nature. Some people's psychokinesis was good, while others was evil. Qin Jianmei's spiritual energy was filled with resentment. Although she was dead, all of her resentment was hidden within the demonic puppet. As long as the resentment wasn't extinguished, the puppet would continue to exist. If they wanted to completely destroy the puppet, they would have to find a way to draw out all of her resentment and then destroy it. If they couldn't, then once Qin Jianmei's resentment and the puppet completely fused, the puppet would become even more frightening. I'm currently using spiritual energy to draw out Qin Jianmei's resentment. If she can dissipate on her own, that would be best. If not, then we'll have to destroy her, Li Mo instructed. Focus your attention and help me force out all of her resentment. Perhaps you'll be able to see images of your mother. All right. Yun Ruoyan nodded, continuing to release her spiritual energy with Li Mo. Qin Jianmei, in her resentment form, was completely enveloped by Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan's spiritual energy. The images she recalled made her tremble all over, but even though she covered her eyes, they still appeared in her mind. In those images, Qin Jianmei began to refine the Buddha of the afterlife and the Bodhisattva of reincarnation, each of which contained half of her father's heart. She seemed to have found a new reason to live. She continued to visit the various families, including the Yun family, as a pillmaster. The next time Qin Jianmei saw Yun Lan, it was 2 years later. He was playing with a newborn baby boy with his wife, and he looked so happy. All of his attention was focused on his wife and the child in his arms, so much so that he didn't recognize her at first glance. Qin Jianmei looked at the woman lying on the bed. She was so beautiful that even though she was jealous, she had to admit that she was beautiful. However, the beautiful woman wasn't happy at all. Instead, she fell ill because of her depression. Afterwards, Qin Jianmei would often visit the Yun Manor and Lin Yuemei's residence as a pillmaster. Yun Lan eventually recognized her, but Qin Jianmei appeared indifferent, as if their past didn't affect her at all. In fact, this earned her Yun Lan's respect. Because of her deliberate attempts to get close to Lin Yuemei, Qin Jianmei gradually became Lin Yuemei's friend. Lin Yuemei had no one to talk to in the Yun Manor, and she began to turn Qin Jianmei into a confidant. From Lin Yuemei's confidences, Qin Jianmei learned that she didn't actually like Yun Lan, and that Lin Yuemei had always been in love with a man named Long Yin. She even learned that the Yun family had secretly drugged Lin Yuemei's tea in order to have an heir, causing her to have a night of passion with Yun Lan. Lin Yuemei didn't know how Qin Jianmei felt when she heard this. What she had been longing for was worthless in the eyes of another woman. Since that was the case, why did she have to suffer like this? With this thought in mind, Qin Jianmei unwittingly placed the mother-child parasite poison in Lin Yuemei's medicine. She didn't directly kill Lin Yuemei, because Lin Yuemei was the reason she was allowed to visit the Yun Manor. The scene quickly changed. One day, Lin Yuemei told her that the man she loved had returned. It turned out that he hadn't left without saying goodbye, but he had been forced to leave because of an important matter. When the man left, he didn't have time to say goodbye to her. Instead, he gave Yunlan a letter and asked her to pass it to him. However, Yunlan secretly hid the letter. Lin Yuemei flew into a rage and quarreled with Yunlan. Then, she abandoned her young child and left on her own, never to return. Qin Jianmei knew that Lin Yuemei must have eloped with Long Yin, but no one knew where they had gone. Yunlan didn't search for her, nor did he announce it. Almost no one knew that Lin Yuemei had gone missing, except for Qin Jianmei. In the time that Lin Yuemei had left, Qin Jianmei had become Yunlan's understanding flower, comforting him greatly. Just as Qin Jianmei felt that Yunlan was gradually developing feelings for her, Lin Yuemei had returned. Yunlan once again threw Qin Jianmei to the back of his mind, focusing all his attention on Lin Yuemei. Lin Yuemei's body was extremely weak, and Qin Jianmei was in charge of nursing her. Then, she discovered that Lin Yuemei was nearly 2 months pregnant. Qin Jianmei secretly told Yunlan about this, but Yunlan told her not to spread the news and to pretend that he knew nothing. Qin Jianmei watched as Yunlan treated a woman who didn't love him, betrayed him, and was even pregnant with someone else's child, while ignoring her love for Lin Yuemei. All the jealousy in her heart turned into hatred for Lin Yuemei. Again and again, she increased the dosage of the broodmother parasite. Finally, in the first year of Yun Ruoyan's life, when she was a year old, the broodmother parasite exploded in Lin Yuemei's body. During this time, Yunlan found Physician Xing to treat Lin Yuemei, but Qin Jianmei used him to threaten Physician Xing into poisoning Lin Yuemei, causing her to die soon after. Not long after Lin Yuemei's death, Qin Jianmei married Yunlan as his concubine. Qin Jianmei thought that her wish had finally been fulfilled, but not long after, Yunlan married 2 concubines in succession, each of whom bore a striking resemblance to Lin Yuemei. Yunlan quickly forgot about Qin Jianmei. Only then did she realize that Yunlan's heart would never belong to her. From then on, Qin Jianmei devoted herself to refining the demonic puppet, rarely leaving her cottage. A decade passed, and by this time, everyone had almost forgotten about her existence. It was only when Yun Ruoyu was grounded at home for offending Yun Ruoyan that Qin Jianmei once again entered the limelight. By then, Qin Jianmei was on the verge of completing her demonic puppet refinement. With great ambition, she had hoped to make up for all the years she had spent in Yun Ruoyu's care. She had brought Yun Ruoyu along with her to refine the demonic puppet, giving her a beautiful blueprint. However, all of this had been shattered by Yun Ruoyan and Liemo, and she had ended up in her current predicament. Chapter 306. When the images finally disappeared, Qin Jianmei was still wrapped up in Yun Ruoyan and Liemo's spiritual energy, trembling all over. The images that had appeared before her eyes were all images of a past that she couldn't bear to look back on. She had thought that, as long as no one knew about it, it wouldn't affect her in the slightest. When she had made up her mind to do this, she had buried her conscience, believing that she wouldn't feel any remorse. But when she saw the wooden expression on her face as she dug her father's heart out of his chest, the callous expression on her face as she placed the poison in Lin Yuemei's medicine, the sinister expression on her face as she used her daughter to send Madame a medicine that could drive a person insane, when these images reappeared before her eyes, she didn't dare face them. Her entire body trembled in fear. As Liemo released his spiritual energy, he looked at Yun Ruoyan. The images clearly showed how Yun Ruoyan's mother, Lin Yuemei, had been poisoned by Qin Jianmei, and that her father wasn't Yunlan, but a man named Long Yin. Li Mo didn't know that Yun Ruoyan had long known about her parentage, so he was very worried for her. However, Yun Ruoyan was unexpectedly resolute and calm, and he was relieved to turn his attention back to Qin Jinmei's resentment. On the ground, Yun Lan looked up at the three figures in midair, his brows tightly knitted together. Back in the alternate dimension, he had seen demonic puppets being slaughtered. Under normal circumstances, as long as a low-level demonic chi puppet killed its refiner, the puppet would disappear along with it. Only a high-level demonic chi puppet could reach the point where it could fuse with its refiner's psyche power. Yun Lan hadn't expected Qin Jinmei's demonic puppet to have reached such a level. Yun Lan looked at Qin Jinmei's lifeless corpse by his side, and his eyes darkened. Within the demonic puppet's body, Qin Jinmei existed in the form of spiritual energy. Both Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan had seen everything that had happened. Madam Qin, you've already paid the price for your actions. You're already dead, so don't be so stubborn. Li Mo's voice reverberated throughout the demonic puppet's body. I'm already dead. Li Mo's words caused Qin Jinmei to suddenly realize that she was already dead. She raised her head to look at her surroundings, then laughed bitterly. I've been a vagabond for half my life, hoping to change my fate, but this is the end. Why is God so unfair to me? I can't accept this. Seeing Qin Jinmei in such a miserable state, Yun Ruoyan should have been delighted. But because of her past life's experiences, Yun Ruoyan could empathize with her pain and indignation. None of them were originally evil people, but because of fate, they fell into the whirlpool of fate. One wrong step led to many wrong steps, and in the end, they were beyond redemption. In her past life, Yun Ruoyan had been weak, and gullible, resulting in a tragic end. Qin Jinmei, on the other hand, listened to Yun Lan's sweet words and planted feelings for someone who didn't love her at all. In the end, she went astray and didn't end well either. Madam Qin, Yun Ruoyan began. Do you believe in reincarnation? If fate gave you another chance to reincarnate, would you live the same way you did in this life? Yun Ruoyan's sudden question startled Qin Jinmei. The shamanic tribe believed in reincarnation, which was why they used the Buddhas of the past and Bodhisattvas of the present as sacrificial offerings. However, reincarnation and reincarnation were illusory, and even if they believed in it, they couldn't be sure. If there were reincarnation, I'd keep my eyes open, and I'd never trust a man's promises so easily again. I'd rely on my own abilities, and even if I had to live a simple and ordinary life, I'd never do such heartless things again, Qin Jinmei declared. In that case, why don't you let go of your obsession, disperse the demonic puppet, and go where you belong? Who knows, perhaps you'll have a chance to start anew in your next life. Qin Jinmei was stunned again. After a while, she said, I harmed your mother and you. Don't you hate me? Yun Ruoyan, you should be itching to turn me into dust. Yun Ruoyan hadn't expected Qin Jinmei to recognize her, and she quickly calmed down. You're already dead, and I've avenged you. However, if you still want to cause trouble, I don't mind turning you into dust. Ha! Qin Jinmei suddenly laughed. Ruoyan, I actually quite like you. You're not at all like your mother. Your mother is beautiful, but she is not as beautiful as you. You are intelligent, smart and penetrating. Madam Qin, Yun Ruoyan sighed. I hope that you'll give yourself a chance. Ha ha. Qin Jinmei laughed softly. A lifetime of bitterness, a lifetime of bitterness. To me, turning into dust might be the best outcome. As soon as Qin Jinmei finished speaking, the demonic puppet began to grow larger and larger, so much so that Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo's spiritual energy couldn't suppress it any longer. The moment Lin Yuemei was killed by Yun Lan's sword, the motionless demonic puppet began to move. There was a loud bang. The demonic puppet swung its gigantic fists at Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan. Liemo dodged the attack with his sword, but the puppet's spiritual energy suppression on Qin Jianmei was also broken. "Oh no," Liemo murmured. The demonic puppet's about to completely fuse with the demonic puppet. Yun Ruoyan's scarlet eye appeared in her hands, and Liemo summoned a fireball and an icicle. The two of them were prepared for battle at a moment's notice. However, the demonic chi puppet turned its huge body around and locked its attack on Yunlan. This was the man she had loved all her life, but had never been able to possess. "Even if I'm reduced to dust, I'll take you down with me," Qin Jianmei shouted, and the demonic puppet spat out two streams of demonic energy, one black and one red, at Yunlan. The two streams of demonic energy transformed into two gigantic demonic hands that lunged at Yunlan. Although they were both demonic hands, they were imbued with powerful demonic energy. The demonic energy formed a strong gust of wind that blew Su Nan, Mo Wei, and even Yun Ma Xiao into a corner. Only Yunlan seemed unaffected. His hands were clasped behind his back, and he stared at the demonic hands as they reached for him. One of the two demonic hands grabbed Yunlan's neck, while the other grabbed his legs and lifted him up. "Yunlan, you're my demonic energy. Only with your death can I be reborn." Qin Jianmei's demonic puppet raised its gigantic fist at Yunlan. With a loud boom, the fist came crashing down on Yunlan. However, Yunlan didn't die as she had hoped. Qin Jianmei felt a powerful force resisting her full-strength attack. Under the demonic puppet's fist, Yunlan's entire body glowed with a dazzling white spiritual energy. Yun Ruoyan knew that this white light was a spiritual barrier. Any 8th-rank blade master would have a spiritual barrier appear on the surface of their body in the face of extreme danger. However, if the level of the attack exceeded the cultivation of the cultivator, then the spiritual power film would be useless. Only when the level of the attack was lower than the level of the spiritual power film would the spiritual power film play a role in protecting the cultivator. When the difference in cultivation was large enough, the spirit power film could even reflect attacks. Zhuo Feng had once been seriously injured by Li Mo's spiritual barrier. Yunlan's spiritual power membrane could actually resist the demonic chi puppet's attack. This meant that his current cultivation had already surpassed the demonic chi puppet's level. Yun Ruoyan was extremely shocked. Yunlan rarely revealed his cultivation in front of others, but she didn't expect his cultivation to be so high. So this is what it means to be a sword saint. Li Mo's voice rang out by Yun Ruoyan's ear. That cloudy sky fruit really helped him a lot. The white spiritual energy on the surface of Yunlan's body grew brighter and brighter, and the demonic puppet's fist was pushed further and further away by the spiritual barrier. With a bang, the demonic chi puppet's huge body was sent flying by Yunlan's spirit force film. It crashed into the wall behind it and collapsed the entire wall of the tea house. The white barrier around Yunlan's body slowly turned red. More accurately, it wasn't red, but red flames. Yunlan also cultivated fire-attuned spiritual energy, but she didn't know what kind of external fire-attuned spiritual technique he had used to envelop his entire body in flames. The two black and red demonic hands quickly turned into gray smoke under the spiritual fire on the surface of Yunlan's body and disappeared. A blood-red sword light appeared beneath Yunlan's feet. Yunlan stepped on the sword and flew up, arriving before the demonic energy puppet. Yunlan extended a hand toward the demonic puppet's head, and a beam of spiritual energy appeared in his hand, piercing into the puppet's head and wrapping around Qin Jianmei's resentment. Then, Yunlan retracted the beam of spiritual energy and pulled Qin Jianmei out of the puppet's body. "You want to kill me?" Yunlan stared at Qin Jianmei's resentment. "Why?" "I want to kill you, but it looks like I won't be able to." Qin Jianmei's face was bitter. "I've devoted my entire life to you, but this is how I've ended up. You've caused me so much harm, so of course I have to kill you." Laughable. Yunlan looked at Qin Jianmei disdainfully. You harmed Yueme, so I won't forgive you. Die. Yun Lan's voice was cold, without a trace of warmth, or even a trace of sadness or disappointment. Yun Lan, have I never existed in your heart? Qin Jianmei asked, unwilling to give up. Yun Lan's deep eyes narrowed. I've had many women in my life, but apart from Yueme, they're all the same to me. I thought that you'd be a little different from the others, but it looks like you're just more foolish than they are. As Yun Lan spoke, the spiritual fire on his body slowly spread to the pillar of spiritual energy in his hand, and to Qin Jianmei's spiritual energy. I'm foolish, and my death isn't worth pitying. All I ask is that you treat Ruoyu well. She's your blood. Before Qin Jianmei could finish speaking, she turned into ashes and vanished into nothingness. Chapter 307. Qin Jianmei's resentment was burned to ashes by Yun Lan's spiritual fire, and the massive demonic energy puppet also turned to ash with Lin Yuemei's death. The surroundings finally returned to normal. Father. Yun Lan stood on the blood-red sword for a long time. Worried, Yun Maxiao walked up to him and called out to him. When Yun Lan heard Yun Maxiao calling him, he turned his head and looked down. When his gaze met Yun Ruoyan's, Yun Ruoyan seemed to see a trace of sadness in his eyes, but it was only for a moment. Must be an illusion, Yun Ruoyan thought. Father, are you all right? Yun Maxiao asked, concerned. Yun Lan shook his head and descended on his sword. Yun Ruoyan was a little worried that Yun Lan had recognized her. After all, even Qin Jianmei had recognized her, and Yun Lan's eyesight was far superior to hers. Yun Ruoyan glanced at Liemo, who could see the worry in her eyes. He shook his head at her and pulled her toward Yun Lan. Right at this moment, Yun Lan staggered, and then he spat out a mouthful of blood. Father, what's wrong? Yun Maxiao helped his father up, and Liemo and Yun Ruoyan also stopped. I'm fine. Yun Lan waved his hand, but his entire body went limp, and he collapsed into his father's arms. Father! Yun Ruoyan couldn't help calling out. Just as she was about to step forward, Liemo pulled her back. Official Yun's fine. He's only just reached the peak of the Sword Saint realm. Because he used the Cloud Sky fruit, his foundation isn't very stable. Furthermore, he used too much spiritual energy just now, so both his spiritual vortex and his body have suffered some damage. However, Liemo continued. Master Yun is already a Sword Saint now, so this kind of injury won't threaten his life. He'll be able to fully recover after some time. Take advantage of this time to return to the capital. Perhaps the Imperial Guards will be arriving soon, Yun Maxiao instructed Yun Ruoyan and Liemo. Their battle this time had caused quite a commotion within the Imperial City, and it was certain that the commoners would be alarmed. Fortunately, the location Liemo had chosen was rather remote, so the commoners weren't injured or damaged too much. Liemo left with Yun Ruoyan and the guards. Just as Yun Maxiao and Yun Lan were about to leave, the Imperial Guards arrived. Lord Yun, General Yun, what happened? When the captain of the Imperial Guards saw the two of them in such a sorry state, he hurriedly stepped forward to inquire about their condition. Send us back to the residence of Yun first, I will explain to you later. Yun Maxiao was the general of the Imperial City, and this Imperial bodyguard was his subordinate. Thus, he didn't dare ask too many questions and only nodded in agreement. There's another body here. What should we do with it? The guard captain asked as he pointed at Qin Jianmei's body. After Yun Lan returned to the manor, he lay in bed for 3 days and 3 nights before waking up. Yun Ruoyu walked out of her courtyard on the same night. The maids in her courtyard were startled to see her walking out of her room in a daze, asking her where she had gone and why she had suddenly left her room. Yun Ruoyu didn't know that she was missing at all. When she woke up from her bed, she thought that she had just slept. As soon as Yunlan woke up, she spread the news that the Yun family's third aunt had succumbed to an illness. As for the true cause of Qin Jinmei's death, even Yun Ruoyu had no way of knowing, much less outsiders. Of course, outsiders didn't care. After all, she was just an aunt. Because she was a concubine, Qin Jinmei didn't have the right to enter the Yun family's ancestral grave. She could only find a slightly better plot of land outside and bury her in a hurry. Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao didn't have to go, and only Yun Ruoyu wore mourning clothes. After the funeral, Yun Ruoyan made a special trip to Qin Jinmei's grave and burned a cloth bag in front of it. Liamo asked Yun Ruoyan, somewhat puzzled. Shouldn't you hate her? She poisoned your mother and harmed you as well. I used to hate the person who poisoned me, and when I suspected the Qin family, I hated her as well, Yun Ruoyan sighed. Yun Ruoyan sighed. But when I think of how I was severely injured on the tournament stage when I was a child, and how everyone despised me, she was the only one who saved me and guarded me for an entire night. I can't bring myself to hate her. No matter what her motives were, she gave me a sliver of hope when I was in despair. I'll remember this favor, and I'll have to repay it. Yun Ruoyan watched as the cloth bag burned away, revealing the Bodhisattva and the reincarnated Buddha within. These two statues are the faith of the shamanic tribe. Let's treat it as a token of my gratitude. Yun Ruoyan left with Liamo. Not long after the two of them left, a figure appeared in front of Qin Jinmei's grave. She hurriedly squatted down and put out the fire in front of the grave with some sand. Then, she took off her mourning clothes and wrapped the two statues in her arms before leaving in a hurry. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Tomorrow was the eve of the new year. Kongming Academy was on vacation, and the Lin siblings had all returned home. During this time, Yun Ruoyan would go to the Lin Manor to play with the Qingchen sisters in the morning, then head to the Slaughtering King's Manor in the afternoon. At night, she would return to her own rooms to rest. The Yun matriarch, who had never been very strict with her, began to restrain her after her engagement to Liamo. She even sternly told her that she couldn't spend the night at her fiancé's house before the wedding. This was not only a rule, but also a sign of a woman's self-respect. Yun Ruoyan nodded obediently. Every day, she would have one more task, to pay her respects to the Slaughtering King's family after returning from the Slaughtering King's manor. At first, Yun Ruoyan was worried that Yunlan would suspect her, but when she heard from her brother that Yunlan had asked him to investigate the identity of the black-white twin demons and had even given him a list of suspects, she and Liamo weren't among them. Only then did she relax. Yunlan didn't seem particularly concerned about Yun Ruoyan, but according to the Yun matriarch, her dowry had been prepared by Yunlan himself, and he hadn't hired anyone else. Yun Ruoyan's feelings toward Yunlan were extremely complicated. She had once hated and resented him, but now that she knew so much about him, she couldn't bring herself to hate or resent him. She couldn't bring herself to hate or resent him, and naturally, she couldn't bring herself to kiss him. But when they met, she still called him father, and it wasn't as awkward as she'd expected. This must be a habit, Yun Ruoyan thought. On the eve of the new year, Yun Ruoyan accompanied the Yun matriarch to keep watch, and the Yun matriarch unwittingly dozed off. Yun Ruoyan and a few of her maids sneaked out of the room and waited by the fireplace for midnight. When midnight arrived, Yunlan and Yun Maxiao arrived together, bringing with them the firecrackers that had recently become very popular in the capital. Shaolan woke the Yun matriarch up, and the maids took turns kowtowing to the Yun matriarch. The Yun matriarch cheerfully handed out red envelopes to everyone. The maids beamed with joy as they received their red envelopes, and the entire room was filled with a festive atmosphere. There was only one thing that made this festive atmosphere seem a little lacking, the Yun matriarch's sudden mention of Yun Ruoyu. Ever since Qin Jinmei's death, Yun Ruoyan seemed to have changed into a completely different person. She had moved from her own courtyard to the plum-clipping cottage, and she spent most of her days in seclusion. Yunlan, send someone to visit Ruyu tomorrow. She's quite pitiful after losing her mother, the Yun matriarch said. Mother, I'll have someone deliver dinner to her this evening. Don't worry, mother. She'll get better with time, Yunlan replied. That's right, grandmother. It's a festive day, so please be happy, Yun Ma Xiao added. I'm going to light some fireworks, grandmother. I'm sure you'll like them. No one paid much attention to Yun Ruoyan's unusual behavior, and the crowd quickly returned to the festive atmosphere. This was the first new year that Yun Ruoyan had spent in the Yun household after reincarnating. Thinking back on it, she felt as though it had been a long year, as though she had made up for all her regrets from her past life. But as the scenes flashed through her mind, Yun Ruoyan felt as though the year had passed so quickly that she didn't have time to think about it. Danger after danger, challenge after challenge. All she did was bravely accept them, resist them, and not slack off in the slightest. When everything was over and she looked back, those dangers and challenges were nothing more than rocks in the river. She had stepped on them and crossed the turbulent river. Apart from her various gains and improvements, Yun Ruoyan felt that the most important thing was that she had gained the courage to face everything, as well as the self-awareness that she needed to strengthen herself even when she had a man to rely on. Bang, bang, bang. A series of fireworks exploded in the air, and the colorful fireworks illuminated the sky with colorful colors. Just like that, Yun Ruoyan's first year of life had passed, and a future filled with challenges and unknowns lay before her. After the end of the night watch, everyone returned to their own courtyards. Because Yun Ruoyan was in a relaxed mood, she allowed her exhaustion to overwhelm her. Along the way, she called out sleepy, 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 and then closed her eyes. Shilan and Peony each took one of her arms and carried her to her bed. They carefully wiped her hands and face, took off her outer robes, and covered her with a blanket. Only then did the two maidservants blow out the lamp and quietly close the door. As soon as the door closed, the back window opened soundlessly, and Liemo floated into the room. In the past, Yun Ruoyan would have woken up by now, but today, she only flipped over on the bed, kicked off the blanket, and continued to sleep. Liemo smirked, took off his outer robes, and lay down by Yun Ruoyan's side. Only then did Yun Ruoyan sense that someone had arrived, but the familiar scent told her who it was. Without opening her eyes, she snuggled into Liemo's embrace like an obedient little animal. Why are you here at this hour? Yun Ruoyan murmured. It's the eve of the new year, and I didn't want to spend it alone, Liemo replied. Yun Ruoyan could feel the coolness of Liemo's body, and she knew that he must have been waiting outside the window all morning, only entering the room when she returned. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but feel sorry for him. She reached out and hugged Liemo's waist tightly. Liemo, I'll spend the rest of the year with you, all right? Chapter 308. Time flew by, and soon, the 29th day of the third month of the lunar calendar was Yun Ruoyan's birthday, as well as her coming of age. In the Li Kingdom, coming of age was extremely important to a girl, as it signified that she had reached adulthood and was ready for marriage. In large families, the importance of a girl's marriage was no less than that of a man's coronation ceremony. Furthermore, because Yun Ruoyan was the first daughter of the Yun family, a student of Kongming Academy, and the Slaughtering King's fiancée, her coming-of-age ceremony was even more extravagant. Sister Ruoyan, this dress is so gorgeous. Lin Qingshue's eyes widened as she stared at Yun Ruoyan's fiery red dress. The hem of the dress was embroidered with golden silk with phoenix flowers, so gorgeous that it was almost blinding. Her red outer robe had no collar, revealing Yun Ruoyan's slender neck. Because she had been resting regularly and eating well during this period of time, Yun Ruoyan had grown much taller, and her figure had also become much more well-rounded. Although she had just turned 15, she already looked like a 17-year-old girl. Coupled with the fiery red formal attire, she looked more mature and bright than ever before. "That's right, Sister Ruoyan, you look like a completely different person in this dress," Lin Qingchen chimed in. Lin Qingchen and Lin Qingxue had arrived early in the morning in Yun Ruoyan's cottage. They were going to be serving as Yun Ruoyan's maids, so even though they didn't usually wear formal clothes, they were dressed rather formally today. "Don't I look good?" Yun Ruoyan stood up and twirled in a circle. The phoenix flowers embroidered with golden silk fluttered in the air, glowing brightly when they came into contact with the sunlight outside the door. "Of course I look good." Lin Qingchen and Lin Qingxue hurriedly added in unison, "It just feels different from before." "Different how?" Yun Ruoyan frowned as she looked at herself in the mirror. In fact, even she herself felt that she was different from before. In the past, she had also worn a similar fiery red dress. In both her past and present life, she had worn all sorts of formal attire when attending important events. However, when she looked at herself in the mirror today, she also felt that the woman in the mirror was different from before. As for what exactly was different, she couldn't quite put her finger on it. "Our young miss has grown up." Peony smiled, a look of pride in her eyes. "Our young miss is no longer a little girl. She's a woman now." Peony's words made everyone realize that Yun Ruoyan had unwittingly transformed from a young girl into a woman. Because Yun Ruoyan had been born at noon, the auspicious time for her coming of age was also set at noon. Just after breakfast time, both sides of the road outside the residence of Yun were filled with carriages and guests from all walks of life. The liveliness was no less than that of the Yun matriarch's birthday. "I heard that the eldest daughter of the Yun family will marry the slaughtering king as his consort soon after she reaches the age of 15. Is that true?" Two guests in the queue whispered to each other. "Yeah, I heard about it too. It said that the wedding date has been set. It's in 3 days. Why do you think they're in such a hurry?" Another guest in front of them heard the conversation and interrupted, "You probably don't know about this, but they're going to participate in some sort of training at Kongming Academy, and after that, they'll be sent to a more dangerous place for training." "When will they be back?" "Kongming Academy's training." The two people behind him immediately became interested. They craned their necks and asked, "What collective training? What trial? How did you know where to go for the trial?" "Sure." The man looked around nervously. "This is an internal arrangement of Kongming Academy, and most people don't know about it. However, my young miss is also participating in this training, and I only found out about it after overhearing her conversation with my master. My young master is training hard in the manor every day, and my master is collecting treasures to prepare for him." The two of them didn't even have time to attend Miss Yun's coming-of-age ceremony this year, which is why I'm here to give her a gift. "Oh, I recognize you." One of the two guests pointed at the man in front of him. "You must be Master Pei's second butler." This man was Pei Xiong's second butler, and the young master he was referring to was none other than Pei Zio. "No wonder you know so much. You're the butler of the Pei family." The two guests exclaimed in realization. "Let me tell you." Seeing that someone had recognized him, the second butler of the Pei Manor grew even more excited. He leaned in front of the two guests and whispered, "You must not know this, but the Slaughtering King is one of the most powerful instructors in Kongming Academy, and Miss Yun is his only official disciple." "What?" The two people behind him widened their eyes and said in shock, "Then how could they still have an engagement? Isn't that the case?" "That's right. A teacher is like a father, and this will be punished by the heavens." The second butler laughed. "My master said the same thing, so even if he wasn't busy, he wouldn't have come here." "Is what you're saying true? Are they really master and disciple?" Quite a few people who had overheard their conversation also came over to ask. "Ah, it's my turn, it's my turn." The second butler didn't dare to make a big deal out of this, so he quickly changed the topic and went back to line up. However, his words quickly spread through the crowd. Miss Yun was about to be married to the slaughtering king, but the two of them were still master and disciple. Soon, a wedding would be held in the imperial city, and so on and so forth. Because there were so many guests, the main entrance was reserved for the less important ones, while the more important ones would naturally enter through a small door at the side. For example, Yunlan's friends in the court, the princes, and the young ladies of the larger clans who had come to join in the fun. Congratulations, Master Yun, the Yun family has a daughter who has matured. An official of similar rank as Yunlan stepped forward to congratulate him. She can be betrothed once she reaches the age of 15. The official smiled politely at Yunlan. I wonder if Miss Yun is already betrothed. I would like to make a request on behalf of my son. Yunlan smiled sheepishly. Lord Lu, my daughter is already betrothed, and the wedding will be held soon. I hope that Lord Lu will attend the wedding. Ah! Lord Lu was obviously shocked and said, Your daughter is already married. How come you didn't hear anything about such a big matter? Who is she betrothed to? Because my daughter's schedule has been rather rushed ever since she returned from Kongming Academy, the engagement hasn't been held with much fanfare. Today, I'm taking this opportunity to announce the wedding to everyone, Yunlan explained. Actually, Li Mo had been very concerned about the wedding at first, and he had wanted it to be a grand affair. However, Yun Ruoyan didn't want such a grand affair, as she felt that it was already too eye-catching. As a result, Li Mo agreed to her request. Yun Ruoyan's idea was that the wedding wouldn't even be grand, but this idea was immediately rejected by Yunlan and Li Mo. The wedding could be kept small, because both Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were too well known in the capital, and it would be better to keep a low profile. On the other hand, the marriage was an important event that had to be announced to the world. As the auspicious hour approached, all the important guests were seated in the great hall of the Yun Manor, while the rest of the crowd gathered outside. The Yun matriarch sat at the head of the hall, dressed in formal attire. She was the most senior member of the Yun family, and she was the one who would tie Yun Ruoyan's hair. Yunlan sat to the right of the Yun matriarch. As Yun Ruoyan's father, he had to accept Yun Ruoyan's thanks. Li Mo sat to the right of Yunlan. He was the most distinguished guest of the day, and Li Qianhan sat to his side. The crown prince, Li Qianshao, and the second prince, Li Qianyuan, sat opposite him. The auspicious hour has arrived, and the ceremony shall begin. As soon as the announcer began, all the chatter in the great hall died down. Supported by the Lin sisters, Yun Ruoyan entered the main hall from the back of the hall. Her dazzling red figure immediately attracted everyone's attention. Li Mo's dark eyes were full of mirth, and he didn't even try to hide his smile as he looked at Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan felt Li Mo's gaze and mischievously raised her chin at him, but her eyes were also full of mirth. The crown prince, Li Qianhan, craned his neck and stared at Yun Ruoyan, and the second prince, Li Qianyuan, narrowed his eyes slightly. Every time Yun Ruoyan appeared, she seemed to be different from the last, and every time she appeared, they would be surprised by her transformation. She was like a magical flower, able to bloom into a different, dazzling flower each time. Warriors in position, start the ceremony. As Yun Ruoyan walked into the center of the great hall, the announcer continued, the young kneel, and the elderly wash their hands. At this time, two dignified maids, one holding a prayer mat in front of Yun Ruoyan, and the other holding a golden basin, walked up to the Yun matriarch. The Yun matriarch placed her hands into the basin. Kneel to the heavens, and pray for the blessings of the gods, the announcer announced. The Lin sisters retreated to the sides, and Yun Ruoyan knelt down on the prayer mat toward the outside of the great hall, bowing 3 times. Kneel to the guests, and pray for the blessings of friends and family. Yun Ruoyan bowed to the surrounding guests 3 more times. Kneel to my parents and elders 3 times, and pray for the health of my parents and elders. Finally, Yun Ruoyan kowtowed to her father and the Yun matriarch. Now that the kneeling ceremony is complete, let's begin. Yun Ruoyan straightened her back on the prayer mat, and the Yun matriarch stood up after washing her hands. The Lin sisters helped the Yun matriarch to Yun Ruoyan's side. At this time, another maid came forward, holding a golden jade box in her hands. Lin Qingchen opened the box and handed it to the Yun matriarch. The Yun matriarch reached into the box and took out a golden phoenix hairpin, slowly inserting it into Lin Qingchen's unadorned black hair. The ceremony of ascension is complete. The announcer announced. Chapter 309. Lin Qingchen and Lin Qingxue helped Yun Ruoyan up, and she bowed to the guests once more, thanking them for coming to witness her wedding. The guests all offered their own words of praise. Thank you, everyone, for coming to witness my daughter's wedding today. Yunlan stood up from his seat. I'd like to take this opportunity to announce to everyone that my daughter has been betrothed to the Slaughtering King, and the wedding date is set for 3 days from now. I hope that everyone will honor us with their presence then. Among the guests, only a few had heard the news, so most of them were surprised. First, they were shocked that Yun Ruoyan was going to marry the Slaughtering King, Liemo, and second, they were shocked that the wedding would be so rushed. However, because of Liemo's presence, they only dared to whisper. It looks like the Pei Manor's steward was right. There must be some sort of grudge between the Slaughtering King and Miss Yun, or they wouldn't have held the wedding so hastily. The 2 men from before began to whisper again. I think so too, another man agreed. Such a reckless act would be punished by the heavens. I'm not going to attend such a wedding. When the people around them heard their discussion, they began to whisper to each other. Even those who didn't ask questions perked up their ears. Yun Ruoyan, Liemo, and Yunlan all had spiritual energy, so even though the guests' voices were soft, they could still hear them. The 3 of them knew what was going on, so they didn't mind it too much. All they wanted was for the wedding to end as quickly as possible and send everyone out of the Yun manor. Unlike other weddings, there weren't any banquets for guests. As a result, Yunlan said, my daughter's wedding is over, so I won't take up any more of your time. Please return to your rooms, and I'll have a toast with all of you in 3 days. Just as the crowd was about to leave, however, a burst of laughter could be heard from outside the main hall. Official Yun, why didn't you inform me of your daughter's wedding? Rong Tianling and Rong Yuashan walked in. The feud between the Rong and Yun families had been going on for a long time, and Rong Tianling and Yunlan had been constantly at odds with each other. Thus, when Rong Tianling arrived, the expressions on everyone's faces changed. Some were looking forward to a good show, while others looked worried. I've heard that the Slaughtering King's disciple is attending his coming-of-age ceremony today, so even though I didn't receive an invitation, I've come all the way here, Rong Tianling continued, bowing deeply to Liemo, the Slaughtering King's disciple is coming of age today. Isn't that Miss Yun? Rong Tianling's words caused the crowd to clamor even louder. Looks like the rumors are true. Miss Yun and the Slaughtering King really do have a master-disciple relationship. So, can a master and disciple get married? Rong Tianling had come to make things difficult for Yunlan by pretending not to know anything. He couldn't take advantage of Yunlan in court, so he came up with this plan to vent his frustrations. Imperial Uncle Rong, today is my daughter's wedding day. I hope you won't cause any trouble. Yunlan coldly said to him. Rong Tianling, however, looked confused. Looking for trouble? What trouble is this uncle looking for? I don't understand what you're saying, Master Yun. Yunlan's expression was as cold as his voice. Yun Ruoyan was supposed to leave as soon as she reached her marriageable age, but she had been blocked by Rong Tianling in the main hall. Li Qianshao and Li Qianyuan were aware of Yunlan's relationship with Yun Ruoyan, so when Yunlan announced their engagement, the two of them immediately thought of their relationship. However, both of them quickly suppressed this thought. After a few twists and turns, Li Qianshao's opinion of Yun Ruoyan had finally changed to one of intense love and admiration. But in front of Li Mo, he had no choice but to suppress his feelings. Although Li Qianyuan's feelings for Yun Ruoyan couldn't be considered adoration, he was still a little disappointed to learn that she was going to marry Li Mo. But of course, he wouldn't offend the slaughtering king just because he was a little disappointed. As a result, Li Qianshao and Li Qianhan couldn't help but feel excited and expectant when Rong Tianling's appearance broke the veil between them. Let's see how you're going to carry on with the wedding under the watchful eyes of the public. With this mentality, the two of them who had already stood up sat back down. Ah, slaughtering king, you have to stand up for me. Rong Tianling looked at Li Mo with an aggrieved expression. I'm here to celebrate your disciple's wedding day, and why is official Yun saying that I'm here to cause trouble? Tell me, what's going on here? When the crowd saw that Rong Tianling had the gall to provoke the slaughtering king, they couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. Li Mo, however, didn't seem to mind at all. He sat back in his seat, a faint smile on his face. His smile wasn't as cold as it had been before, but strangely warm. In the face of Li Mo's smile, Rong Tianling, who had been feigning ignorance, began to feel a little guilty. Slaughtering king, aren't you going to say something fair for me? Rong Tianling continued. Just as he finished speaking, another voice came from outside the door. This time, it was a little shrill, as if a man were speaking with his throat pinched. However, the crowd immediately recognized the man's identity, and they parted to make way for him. The imperial edict has arrived. That shrill voice continued until the person entered the room. Apart from the Yun matriarch and Li Mo, everyone else in the hall knelt down in a hubbub. The eunuch swept his gaze across the crowd, cleared his throat, and began reading the edict in his hands. Yun Ruoyan, daughter of the Yun family, is dignified, modest, courteous, intelligent, gentle, and virtuous. Now that she has reached the marriageable age, I hereby bestow her hand in marriage to my brother, the slaughtering king Li Mo, as the slaughtering king's consort. 3 days from now will be an auspicious day for the wedding. After reading the edict, the eunuch cleared his throat again. Official Yun, please accept the edict and thank the emperor for his grace. Yunlan received the imperial edict and thanked the emperor 3 times. Everyone followed suit and shouted, "Long live the emperor!" The eunuch continued, His Majesty has decreed that 3 days is indeed a little too short, so there's no need for a grand wedding. However, I'll be there to witness the wedding, so there's no need to be half-hearted. Yunlan accepts the imperial edict. Yunlan bowed and received the imperial edict. Everyone, disperse. Time is of the essence, so let's not delay official Yun's wedding preparations any longer, the eunuch said to the crowd. Only then did the crowd react and nod in agreement. Imperial Uncle Rong, His Majesty has prepared a table of food and wine in the palace for you to drink together. Please follow us into the palace. Uncle Rong hesitated for a moment, but he had no choice but to leave with his tail between his legs. Since the emperor of a kingdom had issued an imperial edict to bestow marriage, then the so-called marriage was no longer valid. In private, there was a saying that a teacher for a day was a father for life, but a teacher wasn't a father. As for the fact that a teacher couldn't marry his disciple, it was only an unwritten rule that had been broken by the emperor's decree. As long as both parties were in love with each other, even a teacher and a disciple could marry. As a result, 3 days later, Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan's wedding was officially held. Although 3 days was short, the wedding was even grander than Yun Ruoyan had expected. Because the emperor was personally presiding over the ceremony, the imperial guards of honor alone took up half a street, making it nearly impossible to keep a low profile. On this day, Yun Ruoyan was woken up just as the sun was rising. 5 maidservants circled around her for more than 4 hours before she was properly dressed. The Lin sisters, as well as the other young misses of the large families who had come to congratulate Yun Ruoyan, were all stunned into silence when they saw Yun Ruoyan in her bright red wedding dress. There were no words that could describe the beauty of the woman in front of them. In that moment, many of the noblewomen even forgot about their jealousy and hatred. All they could see was admiration and yearning for Yun Ruoyan's beauty. Only when the auspicious hour arrived and Yun Ruoyan left, supported by the Lin sisters, did the noblewomen realize what had happened. I heard that Miss Yun had a birthmark on her face, but why doesn't she have one? She's so clean and pretty. One of the noblewomen who had seen Yun Ruoyan for the first time asked. She really does have a birthmark on her face. I saw it at last year's flower viewing party, and it was frightening. Why is it gone now? This person doesn't seem like the same person I saw at last year's flower viewing party, but they're clearly the same person. Tell me, how could a person change so much in a year's time? Another noblewoman who had seen Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. You don't know, do you? Another noblewoman seemed to know a lot. I heard that the slaughtering king knows how to refine a kind of beauty cream. Miss Yun's birthmark has already been healed, but there's still a little mark left. I'm sure she used some powder to cover it up, or else why would her face be so fair and tender? That's a powder that the slaughtering king specially refined for Miss Yun. Really? When the noblewomen heard this, they all began to see stars. What kind of beauty cream is that? I want it too. And that powder. By the end of the day, Yun Ruoyan felt as though she had become a puppet without the ability to think or move. She was wearing heavy wedding clothes, a heavy phoenix coronet, and a red veil on her head, completely blocking the view in front of her. When she lowered her head, she could only see the tips of her feet, and every step she took required the support of others. It was even more tiring than cultivating for 3 days and 3 nights straight. Liamo could clearly see her fatigue and impatience. As the couple bowed to each other, he leaned close to her ear and whispered, "You've worked hard today, my little consort." Husband and wife bowed to each other and entered the bridal chamber. The officiator announced, and the guests began to cheer. Amidst their cheers, Yun Ruoyan could faintly hear Liamo's laughter. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but blush under the red veil. Finally, they were going to enter the bridal chamber. Chapter 310. Yun Ruoyan was sent to the bridal chamber, which was in Liamo's room. Yun Ruoyan wasn't unfamiliar with the surroundings, and her nervousness was alleviated quite a bit. After the Lin sisters sent Yun Ruoyan to the bridal chamber, they chatted with her for a while before leaving, giggling happily. She sat alone on the bright red wedding bed. She hadn't eaten for an entire day, and her stomach began to rumble. Yun Ruoyan endured it for a while longer, but Liamo still hadn't arrived. Smelling the few plates of wedding cakes on the table, she finally couldn't hold back her hunger and lifted the veil. But as soon as the veil was lifted, a woman's voice rang out. "Oh my, the bride can't lift the veil yourself." It was the matron of honor who had nagged at Yun Ruoyan countless times throughout the day. Ever since Yun Ruoyan had stepped out of the Yun manor, the matron of honor had been nagging her incessantly. She couldn't do this, couldn't do that, and had to be careful of this and that. As soon as Yun Ruoyan heard her voice, she reflexively put the veil back on and sat down obediently, returning to her doll form. That's what a bride should be like. The matron of honor laughed. She was quite satisfied with Yun Ruoyan's performance that day. She had followed her instructions strictly, and she hadn't made a single mistake. "Where's His Highness? When will he arrive?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "Looks like the bride can't wait any longer," the matron of honor replied. "But newlyweds should be a little more reserved." Yun Ruoyan could only acquiesce. She couldn't say that she was too hungry and was waiting for His Highness to arrive. After a while, someone finally arrived. It wasn't Li Mo, but Li Luo. Li Luo sent the matron of honor away before removing Yun Ruoyan's veil. When Yun Ruoyan saw Li Luo, it was as if she had seen her savior. "Sister Li Luo, hurry up and give me something to eat. I haven't eaten all day, and I'm so hungry." Yun Ruoyan was on the verge of tears. In order to look presentable, Peony and Shilon had been putting her on a diet for the past few days. Yun Ruoyan, who hadn't seen any meat in days, had been starving for an entire day. The feeling in her stomach was indescribable. When Li Luo saw Yun Ruoyan, she paused for a moment. Even a woman like her couldn't help but be moved by her pitiful expression. But only a girl like Yun Ruoyan is worthy of His Highness, Li Luo thought to herself. His Highness knew that you would be hungry, so he asked me to bring you some food. Li Luo took out some of Yun Ruoyan's favorite snacks from the food box she'd brought with her. His Highness said that it's best not to eat meat tonight, and that you should eat something light to fill your stomach. He might arrive a little later. Has His Majesty not left yet? Yun Ruoyan looked at the plates of delicacies Li Luo had brought out, as well as a bowl of lotus seed porridge. They were far more adorable than the wedding cakes on the table, and she began to eat them. His Majesty left early in the morning, Li Luo replied. But His Highness was stopped by your brother. As it turned out, Yun Ma Xiao had drunk so much at home that he'd taken advantage of his intoxication to come to the slaughtering king's manor. As soon as Yun Ma Xiao saw Li Mo, he refused to let go. He kept saying that he was Li Mo's brother-in-law, and that Li Mo had to accompany him properly before entering the manor. The officials who had only come to put on a show of force but didn't dare to act rashly began to drink with Li Mo as well. Li Mo was truly in a good mood today, and he knew how important Yun Ma Xiao was to Yun Ruoyan. As such, he really had to accompany his brother-in-law well. As a result, the two of them began to drink, one after another, amidst the clamor of the crowd. By the end, Yun Ma Xiao was so drunk that he stopped calling him His Highness. Instead, he kept saying, Li Mo, if you dare mistreat my sister, I'll raise your manor to the ground. As soon as he said this, all of the officials were so frightened that they didn't dare to make any more noise. They all excused themselves, and the slaughtering king's manor was finally a little quieter. Li Luo, personally escort him back, Li Mo instructed. Yes, Your Highness, Li Luo replied. A few servants escorted Yun Ma Xiao to his carriage, and Li Luo stood guard by his side while the coachman drove the carriage back to the Yun manor. As the carriage swayed, Yun Ma Xiao opened his eyes and saw Li Luo. She was hugging her knees as she sat quietly by his side. Yun Ma Xiao didn't know why, but when he looked at Li Luo's profile, he felt a faint sense of sadness. Li Luo, Yun Ma Xiao called out. Li Luo turned to look at Yun Ma Xiao, only to see that his eyes were sparkling like stars, as if he had countless things to say to her. My sister is already married, so I have to get married too. Will you marry me? Yun Ma Xiao finally said what was on his mind under the influence of the alcohol. But as soon as he said this, a wave of alcohol rushed to his head, and Yun Ma Xiao's head grew heavy again. Li Luo, I'm serious. If you agree, you have to tell me tomorrow. As soon as Yun Ma Xiao finished speaking, he fell back into a deep slumber. Yun Ruoyan was thirsty. She saw 2 white jade jars on the table, so she picked one up and poured it into a cup. Because of her experience in her past life, she knew that there would be some sort of marriage wine in the bridal chamber. Yun Ruoyan smelled that the liquid in the cup was fragrant, without a trace of alcohol or the characteristic sweetness of the marriage wine. As a result, Yun Ruoyan began to drink it without worry. The liquid was refreshing, and while waiting for Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan drank cup after cup of it. Before she knew it, she'd finished the contents of the 2 jade flasks. Creak. The door opened, and Li Mo, who had changed into a new set of clothes and taken a shower, walked in with his slightly damp hair. Yun Ruoyan raised her head to look at Liemo before finishing the last of the liquid in her cup. Liemo, you're finally here. Yun Ruoyan stood up and walked toward Liemo with a smile. The phoenix coronet on her head and the complicated wedding dress she wore made her look a little clumsy, but it didn't hinder her beauty. Liemo took a step forward and hugged Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan looked up at him and smiled. Her eyes were misty, but she couldn't hide the lust in them. Liemo, why do you smell so good? Yun Ruoyan leaned against Liemo's chest and sniffed. Why didn't you smell so good before? Liemo casually picked up the white jade flagon from the table and shook it, only to find that both were empty. Did you drink all of this wine? Yun Ruoyan smiled and looked up at the jars in Liemo's hands. Yes, Li Luo brought me some snacks, so I drank them when I was thirsty, and then I drank them again when I got bored waiting for you. What's in there? It's delicious, Uncle, this is my newly brewed blissful wine. Not only does it taste better than the average, but I've also improved its effects. Liemo thought back to what Li Qianhan had said to him a few days ago. He remembered that he was too lazy to pay attention to that brat at that time, but he didn't expect that he would silently send this wine into his bridal chamber, and it was 2 bottles at once. Yun Ruoyan's face slowly turned red. Only now did she realize that there was something wrong with the liquid she had just drunk. Liemo, what's in that jars? Why do I want more after drinking it? Liemo's eyes began to redden. As Yun Ruoyan spoke, her hands began to roam all over his body, and she couldn't help but stand on her tiptoes to kiss his lips. Liemo's lips were cold, but Yun Ruoyan's were hot. It's something that won't hurt. Liemo lifted Yun Ruoyan into his arms. As he carried Yun Ruoyan, he removed the bits and pieces of her hair and the bright red wedding robe she was wearing. Layer by layer, it was very troublesome. Because he was anxious and unwilling to hurt Yun Ruoyan, Liemo seemed a little flustered. It's so troublesome to dress so neatly. Liemo panted slightly. As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Ruoyan heard the sound of tearing silk. Liemo had torn the fabric between Yun Ruoyan's gown and inner robe, revealing a red doo embroidered with a mandarin duck frolicking in the water. As Liemo murmured, the red veil fluttered down, covering the entire room. Yun Ruoyan felt as though she had sunk into a pool of warm seawater, a pleasant sensation spreading from the inside out. Wave after wave of pleasure washed over her body, as though there was no end to it, as though she would be drowned in it. Yun Ruoyan suddenly felt a little afraid that she would drown in this sea of pleasure. As a result, she struggled to open her eyes. As soon as she did, she saw Liemo, who was only a few feet away from her, and she could feel the 2 of them even more clearly. However, Liemo's eyes were closed, and he was frowning slightly, so Yun Ruoyan couldn't tell what he was feeling. Liemo, Yun Ruoyan called out softly. When Liemo heard her voice, he opened his eyes slightly, and an icy blue light poured out of them without warning. Yun Ruoyan's face was covered in a layer of icy blue light. In front of Yun Ruoyan's eyes, Liemo began to transform. His ink-black hair gradually became silvery white, and his eyebrows also became silvery white. His long and narrow eyes became even deeper, and the bridge of his nose was still as tall as before. His thin lips, however, were so red that it seemed as if they were about to drip blood. Liemo called out softly, "Don't be afraid." Yun Ruoyan shook her head. This wasn't the first time she had seen Liemo in his true form. However, this time, she could clearly feel the entire process of Liemo's transformation. Yun Ruoyan was naturally shocked, but she was even more shocked by his beauty. How could there be such a beautiful man in this world? You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.